Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063, the game streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. It is a Fireball Hot Take Friday. The NHL trade deadline has come and gone, but we don't know for sure if the Predators have not made a move yet. So we are awaiting whether or not they make one. Ian is here today. Hello, Ian.
What up? What up?
We got a lot going on. You know, for a Fireball Hot Take Friday, this is quite the Friday. We will have our official free agency plan for the Titans today at 4 o'clock, which is always something that we look forward to. And we'll have Barry Trotz at 3 o'clock today, right here on the program. And I got questions. Cam Ward is on his visit. He's in Nashville right now. And so we got a lot to get to. So we're going to start today with what is me sitting here with my phone. If you're watching the stream, and I find this so obnoxious and arrogant and annoying when I see Adam Schefter on TV with his phone. It's like, oh, I'm so important, I have to have my phone. But I am standing here with my phone just constantly refreshing Twitter to see if Frank Saravalli or Elliot Friedman or anybody else has anything when it comes to the Predators and what they're doing and what they're going to do or what they should do or blah, 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 whatever. I keep waiting. Apparently, Elliot Friedman has said that Brad Marchand could be traded to Florida. That's not a move for the Predators. So right now, we wait to see if there is a move which gets rid of Michael McCarron and gets rid of Colton Sissons and some of this dead weight in a seller's market that has had some prices that I have seen that have not only dropped my jaw, but also at times almost dropped my pants. That being said, this has been, in my opinion, a terrible 23 hours and 59 minutes for the Nashville Predators. I am giving 1 minute of breathing room here. That there is a chance that Barry Trotz has something in the works that's going to come out from Elliott or Darren Dreger or Frank Saravalli or our favorite Ian, Pierre LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
Something's going to go down, we hope. Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. It doesn't look like it, but we'll give them 1 minute. We'll give them 1 minute to get that figured out. If not, this has been, in my opinion, a terrible 23 hours and 59 minutes for the Predators. Let's start with the fact that they won yesterday against Seattle, which is really like a loss because they need to lose as many games as possible. But that I can live with. Then there's Mikko Rantanen, who got dealt out of the division, now gets dealt back into the division to Dallas, and it looks like they're building a freaking powerhouse over there in Dallas. And they're doing it with Matt Duchene on their team. And that's a bad look for the Predators. But there's nothing that could have been more disappointing for me over the last 48 hours than seeing what the Pittsburgh Penguins did to the Winnipeg Jets and, by the transitive property of mathematics, the Predators. The Nashville Predators shipped out Tommy Novak. Again, I don't like Tommy Novak. I think he's soft. I think he really lacks any true physicality. I don't think he can play in big boy hockey, playoff games, things that matter. He'll put up 19 goals, but I think he sucks. And they got rid of Tommy Novak and his contract, which wasn't an albatross, but Novak probably had some value in the league. They got rid of Tommy Novak and Luke Shin for a 4th-round pick and somebody named Michael Bunting. Now, I bet you Barry Trotz is going to come on the show at 3 o'clock and tell us that Michael Bunting is going to be a meaningful player for the Predators. But I have my doubts. So that was just a dump move. They just dumped Shin in his contract for next year, and they dumped Novak in his contract for the next 2 years, and they got a 4th-round pick, and they got this Scarbini, Michael Bunting. And again, yesterday, I didn't have a problem with that move. Get rid of 2 worthless bums, dead weight, whatever. But you have to know the market. And the Winnipeg Jets today traded a 2nd-round pick and a 4th-round pick for Luke freaking Shen. And while I think that's stupid, again, that's the market. So I'm supposed to believe that this terrible Predators team that really has been out of it for the longest time, since like the second month of the season, this team has made like 17 trades over the course of the year. And unless something changes between now and then, and Ian, you just shoot that right in my ear the second if something does come down the pipe, I don't think it's going to. We'll see.
The Marchand to Florida thing looks like it's happening, but nothing with the Preds.
Okay. That means they're going to walk out of this entire trade season with a future second rounder for Gus Nyquist, which is good, but that's the market. A future second rounder for Gus Nyquist and something called Michael Bunting. Meanwhile, the Winnipeg Jets, the Pittsburgh Penguins, got Luke Schenn yesterday and what looked like a good riddance to bad rubbish and turned it into a second and a fourth. And I have really believed up into this point, I have really believed that Barry Trotz could do this job. I have really believed, whether it was celebrating the signings with Stamkos, Marchessault, and Shea, and I'm not going to do what I heard people in this town do when it came to the Titans. And they said, well, the fans like the moves in the offseason, so we shouldn't be mad at the GM. It doesn't matter if the fans like the moves. What matters is whether or not they work. That's why Barry Trotz makes more money than we do. It's his job to make sure that those moves work, not that we like the moves. It's his job to make sure that they work. It didn't work. I understood the shot they took. I understood the pivot. I was fine with it. Up until today, I've really been there lockstep with where this thing was headed. I knew they're going to have to fire the coach at the end of the year, which they're probably going to have to do. And now it kind of hit me when I saw the Winnipeg Jets trade, in which, again, a fourth rounder and a second rounder for that worthless Luke Schenn. That was the market. And whether or not Barry Trotz, and I saw Alex Doherty put out there that Trotz had a fourth round value on Schenn, that wasn't the market. Like, that wasn't the market. The market, again, was apparently a second and a fourth. And it may not have gone this way. I saw somebody out of Pittsburgh said the Penguins acquired Schenn wanting to keep him. Schenn said to Kyle Dubas, the general manager there, and I think they go back to their days in Toronto, and Schenn told Kyle Dubas, hey, I'd like to be on a contender. And so he ships him to Winnipeg. But regardless of the semantics here, the way it looks is Barry Trotz doesn't understand the market. That's the way it looks. And so over the last 24 hours, I have watched this massive seller's market in which Yanni Gourde, now I actually like Yanni Gourde, but Yanni Gourde is bringing in a haul. And in this period, we see an asset that was on the Predators 2 days ago, flipped for more than you traded for him, or you traded and received yesterday. And you traded more there. It's bad. Like, it's bad managed. There's no way, unless there's something else, there's no way that I can walk out of this feeling happy about the deadline the Predators had. And again, this is a seller's market. And in this seller's market, the Predators have dealt away Alexander Carrier, and they dealt away the goalie, and they dealt away Novak, and they dealt away Luke Schenn, and they've dealt away all these guys. And what are they going to have to show for it? A second rounder in next year's draft. Whereas, again, the Dallas Stars, granted, they're in a different spot, but your division rival, the Dallas Stars, have Mikko Rantanen to show for it. The Colorado Avalanche have Charlie Coyle and Martin Necas to show for it. Where's this thing going? Yesterday, in this very segment, the opening segment of the show, I said to you, and I defended Barry Trotz, and I talked about my optimism of where this was going. And I said, look, you can't be mad about the Luke Schenn trade with the Tommy Novak. Those guys stink. And yeah, they'll probably get somebody back from Pittsburgh who stinks, but it's more of a salary dump than it is anything else. and the moves they've made since the beginning of the season, I'm not sure you can be mad about. Well, today you can be mad. Because today, clearly, you don't get the market the way Kyle Dubas in Pittsburgh gets the market. The same incompetence that I was all over the Titans about. This is what today looks like as far as the Predators are concerned. And you know me, and you know I hate saying that. But when I was on my phone, and I was, again, just constantly today, just looking up Twitter, just like, what are the moves? Who's getting traded? Who's going where? Who's Predators this? We had heard that there were some deals in the works as far as O'Reilly was concerned. It sounds like O'Reilly went to Trotz, and I'll ask Trotz about this, but it sounds like O'Reilly went to Trotz and said, hey, I don't want to go to Toronto. And I think there was another one. I've never heard of this guy, so he must not be very good. But apparently some guy, Ian, was it Ottawa, where they were talking about some young
Yes, I
center?
believe it was Josh Norris.
And he ends up going to Buffalo. But apparently there was a deal that they were doing as far as the Preds were concerned, and O'Reilly nixed it, which is great, except he doesn't have trade protection. So we're going to have to figure out what happened there. And I look at the Boston Bruins, a team that had high expectations this year, signed their goalie to a contract their goalie's probably not worth. Their goalie has sucked. Their team has sucked. And the Boston Bruins, who have fired their coach, which you won't do, the Boston Bruins have sent out Brad Marchand and Brandon Carlo and Charlie Coyle. And that's what you do at the deadline. And again, I just don't know how to, I'm not a spin guy. As much as I think people think I am not an agenda spin guy. I just, whatever's in the best interest of the teams, whatever helps them win, that's what I care about. I had no agenda against Rand Carthon until I realized he couldn't do the job. That's how it is. But as I was looking at my phone today and I saw Winnipeg dealing a second and a fourth for Luke Shin, after you got a fourth for Luke Shin and Tommy Novak, and again, some guy, Michael Bunting, some winger, I thought to myself, holy crap. Are the Predators playing checkers and everybody else playing chess? When Julien Brisebois, the general manager in Tampa Bay, when he didn't re-sign Steven Stamkos and he got up there and took the eggs and everything else that the fans in Tampa threw at him, did he know? And do the general managers around the league look at the Predators and say, hey, that's somebody we could take advantage of? Because that's how it feels today, especially with the Pittsburgh trade. The Pittsburgh trade feels like Kyle Dubas called Barry Trotz and said, I can take care of a problem for you. I can get rid of these contracts. You take my bad contract and Michael Bunting, I'll throw in a fourth, and I'll take your Tommy Novak contract, and I'll take your Luke Shin contract, and we'll help each other out here. And Barry Trotz thought, you know what, Kyle, let's do that. That sounds like a good deal. Let's shake on it. That's a good job. Good guys making business. And then, bam, Kyle Dubas turns around and sells Luke Shin for quadruple the price that they acquired him. And again, that might not be how it went down, but that's how it feels. And I used the word when it came to the Titans, and I'm even doing it now when it comes to Sam Darnold about competence. This idea that this organization could say, we don't need Sam Darnold. We don't need a quarterback. We'll run Mac Jones and Will Levis out there. And I'm like, that's incompetent. This Pittsburgh trade and the way this is shaken out, that's just as bad. So I'm worried because I really felt like, hey, Barry shot his shot. It didn't work. Probably learned some lessons along the way. And all young general managers are going to learn their lessons, but they'll get it figured out. They'll change a coach. They'll get somebody in here that goes with these. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. That's how I felt. And now I'm sitting here thinking, holy crap. So I am, again, it doesn't look like they made a move. I am hopeful that at 3:00, Barry Trotz will tell us something that we'll hear, that we can latch onto to give us hope, because again, the last 24 hours It's been a complete and total train wreck for the Nashville Predators, and there is no other way to say it. 615-737-1025. I haven't like looked at the text line, but I have seen the like it's open on my computer and I can see it. You people are pissed. We'll get to that next. Fireball Hot Take Friday, Stillman and Company. This is the worst feeling I've had as a Predators fan over the 2 years of the Barry Trotz era. Stillman and Company, 1025 The Game.
but we're hearing that the Winnipeg Jets have acquired defenseman Luke Schenn from the Pittsburgh Penguins. Luke Schenn, of course, was traded from Nashville to the Penguins a couple days ago in that Michael Bunting, Tommy Novak trade, and he now goes to the Jets. And one of the things about Winnipeg is they like a little bit of certainty, and Schenn does have another year on his contract, Kyle, so that's always a thing that helps.
Schenn was dealt to Toronto a couple years ago. Morgan Riley maybe had his best playoffs as a Leaf with Schenn next to him, and now he goes to Winnipeg, a team first in the West, best team going right now this season, David, and a little more depth on their blue line.
I mean, I think Luke Schenn sucks, so it's not like I'm sitting here thinking, oh, I got Luke Schenn, even though I'm not the biggest Mikko Rantanen guy, and there is kind of a feeling that I do have about Dallas getting him and locking him into a huge contract. But at the same time, it's like, hold on, wait a minute. What did you get for Luke Schenn? You sent Luke Schenn and Tommy Novak to Pittsburgh, and you got a 4th-round pick and had to take on a Scarbini of their own with a contract in order to get the deal done, and they got a 2nd and a 4th? Somebody's not understanding the market right. Like, somebody's not, again, I hesitate to use like a real life analogy on this, because like if it were the housing market, for instance, it's illegal to say like, oh, we won't sell to you, but maybe Winnipeg doesn't want to deal with a division rival. I don't know. But man, the text line, I'm just reading it right. I just was reading it. You guys are pissed, and you have every right to be, and I'm pissed too. And Barry Trotz will be on the show at 3:00, and this is going to be, of the tough interviews we've had to do over the last 6 months, this is going to be the hardest. This is going to be the one where, again, like as a fan, as a season ticket holder, I am worried about where this is headed. I am seriously worried about, are we computing at the same level that the other teams with general managers with experience are computing? Because it sure feels like Barry Trotz got completely played by Kyle Dubas in Pittsburgh. Let's go to your phones as promised on a Fireball Hot Take Friday, and they are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Let's go to Adam in Portland, who's going to start us off today. Adam, go ahead.
It feels though like you sound like a hypocrite to me right now, because when you look at, like, I had to listen to your commercial for like 4 months saying Brady Shea and all the guys that we got, man. Like, you were so excited about it, and we've won less games than we've ever won with that team. So like, who cares what he got for him? He had to get rid of. He had to make a move. Like, it doesn't matter to me. We had draft picks. You talked about it. You're like, we've got draft picks. We've got awesome players. We got a great coach. Well, nothing's working, so you got to get rid of them. We have draft picks. It doesn't matter. I'm with Barry right now. Like, if he's going to come, I don't know what his answer is to this. Clearly, something didn't work perfectly, but, like, they had to make a move. I wish they would have made more moves. When you only win, like, 20 games at this point in the season, you're the Preds, and, like, you're so excited about Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, Brady Shea, and you can't win. Like, get rid of the pieces that are holding you back. If they're not good enough, then get rid of them. And that's where I'm at, dude. Like, it just sucks, because I feel like you're like, you should have already been attacking this. Like, if you were mad at him, you should have already been attacking it. Now this, an extra second, like, that's going to do it for you. We have three first-round picks. Go do something with those 3 first-round picks. Like, I don't know.
It's not about the pick as much
about.
as it is about misreading the market. Like, completely misreading the market and blowing the deadline. Why is McCarron still on the team? Why is Sisson still on the team? Like, again, I went into the deadline, with everything must go sale. That's how it should have been. And McCarron's still on the team, and Sissons is still on the team, and you got a 2nd, a 4th, and somebody named Michael Bunting.
I don't know what Michael Bunting is.
We got to get into the O'Reilly
I don't know what
thing.
Michael Bunting is, Jared, but at the same time, you love Barry. Like, he's your dude. Like, you got to trust him or don't trust him, like one or the other. But, like, if we got him, I'm like, I want to see it through. I wanted to see the coach fired. He didn't fire the coach. So, like, he's got a plan. He's just not telling us what it is. I don't know, dude.
Yeah, I appreciate your call. I mean, look, I like Barry Trotz, and I am not, and I want to make this abundantly clear. I am not advocating that they fire Barry Trotz. Boy, the text line wants to fire Barry Trotz today. I am not advocating that. But this is the first day where I have sat there during the Trotz administration and really questioned my vote. And see, this is the difference between me and a lot of people out there. Adam saying, you were so excited this summer, so why are you changing now? Because we have more information right now. That's why. Yesterday, I didn't have a problem with that Luke Shin trade. I looked at it as Tommy Novak's a worthless bum and Luke Shin's a worthless bum. Get him out of here. He did. The problem is that apparently Luke Shin's not worthless. He's worth a second and a fourth, and our guys didn't know it. That's the problem I have with it. So when you're like, you have to trust Barry no matter what because you like Barry. You have to trust Barry no matter what because you want Barry to be the general manager. You want Barry to be successful. You're right. I do want Barry to be successful. I do like Barry. I do think Barry's accountable. I do think Barry knows the game. I do think Barry has experience. Now, he doesn't have GM experience, which might be showing today. But I want it to work. But I'm not going to sit here today and tell you, Barry Trotz has a plan, folks, and he will get it done. This is not North Korean radio. I believe there's another station in town sometimes does that stuff for the Titans. We don't do it. And secondly, not only is this not North Korean radio, but I'm not a Barry Trotz. I don't have season tickets to Barry Trotz. I have season tickets to the Predators. And so when I think things are going well and I think they're doing the right thing, I say it. When I think they're doing something wrong, I have to just point it out. This idea that I have to be loyal to a fault to my team, I think Andrew Burnett's a good coach. I still think he's a good coach. In spite of this god-awful season, I think he's a good coach. And I think they have to fire him because I think it's in the best interest of the Predators. But man, like I said, this is the first day of the Trotz administration where I am really questioning my vote, seeing what happened. Because, again, the story in Pittsburgh is going to be that Luke Shin went to Kyle Dubas and said, I want to play for a contender. And Kyle Dubas said, okay, we'll find you a trade partner. And that's how that came about. But if Winnipeg was going to offer a second and a fourth today for Luke Shin, were they not going to offer it 2 days ago? Somebody help me understand this. Dante Fabro, they gave him a contract, didn't even trade him, just waived him. I mean, this is not working out for me right now, what's happened so far. Why is McCarron still on the team? Why is that worthless Cole Smith still on the team? Why is Sisson still on? Why are they still on the team? In a seller's market where this Brock freaking Nelson, who almost single-handedly cost us the Four Nations, is getting an absolute haul. I mean, this is awful. 615-737-1025. We continue. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game.
he explained what he did in trading Alex Carrier for Justin Barron. That's just the one that I think has been, if I had to rank the moves that I just think maybe I could second guess a little bit more, that would be the one right now. And maybe Barron will be a late bloomer and become a good player, and they've got him really cheap through next year, and he's going to get a chance to play. That's the beauty of being out of it. You get a chance to sort of try guys out and see if anything sticks, and people can play their way in, play their way out. But that's the one that I think has burned them. You can list a lot of things that have, it'd be a long list of things that have not worked out. Does that mean you lose faith in the guy at the top? I don't think so. But what has happened is he's put himself in a position where there are really important decisions to be made today and then going forward. And I think the biggest one, as you set the table, Adam, with the trade market the way it is do you make a big move for a guy like Ryan O'Reilly, who I think could get you a lot, just based on what we're seeing? You saw what Brock Nelson got last night for the Islanders. They got a haul back for him.
That was Willie today, and even Willie is like, well, there have been some moves that haven't worked out, including the Justin Barron one. Justin Barron stinks. But there have been some moves that haven't worked out, but does that mean that you start questioning the guy at the top? I'm not sure, Willie. I think that's exactly when you start questioning the guy at the top, is when they keep being moves that are made that don't work. But more so than just the armchair quarterbacking, the Monday morning quarterbacking of saying, well, they brought in Stamkos, Marchessault, and Shea, and it hasn't worked. They traded Carrier for Barron, and he sucks. Instead of that, they let Kevin Lankinen go in free agency, immediately signed Scott Wedgwood, and they didn't, they could have waited, and not have Askarov have a meltdown and everything else and whatever. He traded a guy on Wednesday, and on Friday, that guy was worth quadruple the value for another team. It would be, in my opinion, for me, it would be so, trying to think of the right way to say this, because Adam started the show saying that I was a hypocrite, the first call. And he was saying, you're such a hypocrite. And I thought he was going down the path of, you wanted Rand Carthon fired, and you're not saying Barry should be fired. Ian, that's what I thought he was going when we were talking hypocrite.
Threw you a
at the
curveball
beginning of that first call. When he was like, you're a hypocrite because you were praising Barry in the offseason, and now you're upset now. I was like, oh, that's where I thought we were going with it. You should be calling for Barry to be fired today. And I'm not doing that. But, man, like, this is, maybe Willie's right. Maybe this is the wrong time to question the guy at the top. But today is where I feel like I'm questioning the guy at the top. And I will be questioning him 3:00 right here on the program. Nate has been waiting patiently and is up next on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. What's up, Nate?
Hey, guys. So my wife has season tickets to the Preds, and Jared, you're going to be in this boat in a couple years where you're going to have to decide if you want to keep the tickets you have or add a third because of your child turning the age where they need the seat. And that's where we are going to be next season. And I hate to say it, but the team is making, an organization is making it easier and easier with the decision. And it's fun to go to the games, but I mean, and I know it hasn't been long for Trotz, but if with the track record of the one GM in this city, I don't know that I have faith in the organization to have the guts to let Barry Trotz go, because he's the ex-girlfriend that is so comfortable and because it's familiar.
Nate, I want to pick up exactly where I think you've made a good point. I want to stop you right there, and I appreciate your call. So as far as the extra ticket thing is concerned, I'm not really worried about that. I just don't think, your wife is probably more into it than, Lindsay is. So I'm not sure we have to worry about that too much. I think there'll be some days that mom goes, and there'll be some games that Jack goes, and that'll be how it is. But I do hear you on that front. I think you bring up a good point. And when the Predators made the move off of David Poile, look, I like David Poile. I used to live in the same neighborhood as David Poile. Like, I like David Poile. I'm not sure David Poile likes me. If I was David Poile, I wouldn't like me because for about 3 years, I was on his ass because it was time for a change and this organization needed somebody new and this organization needed to go in a different direction and so on and so forth. And the guy I circled and was like, this is the guy I want was ironically Kyle Dubas, the guy in Pittsburgh who just fleeced Barry Trotz. But I wanted an experienced general manager in there. Well, the Predators met me halfway, right? It was like, we're not going to, completely go get a new executive level GM guy, but it's not David Poile anymore. And I was skeptical about Barry Trotz's lack of experience, but I was willing to give it a shot. And the thing that I think we do have to remember is they were good last year. Like, it was fun to be a Predators fan last year. I had so much fun last season. That team was so gritty and tough and likable, and they fought, and they gave you a chance. And if the goalie and Colton Sissons didn't crap their pants in the playoffs, who knows? But I am starting to get back to that point of, well, is this what happens when you have a general manager that has never done this, but has never been a personnel guy before, and now he's figuring it out on the fly as far as the positive and the negatives concerned? Let's go to Michael in Mount Juliet, who's up next here on the program. Michael, thank you for calling and waiting. Go ahead.
Thank you. I was actually, you said everything I was going to say. I was going to defend you from Adam in Portland. I've seen people today just do the same thing. It's like you either have to love Barry or have to hate him. Yeah. You're right, though. You can love what he did. I love Barry. I've met him in person. Great human being. I also can stand back and go, what's happening? And that's okay. But I want to defend you to Adam. Like, I don't think you're a hypocrite at all. You got introduced new information. We've seen what's happened. We've seen what happened today. Brock Nelson, great point. I mean, the proof is there. It's right in front of us. I think now people are in denial because they like Barry and they can't separate their emotions and feelings for Barry, with what has happened. And I just wanted to defend you, man, and say, hey, you're not a hypocrite. I'm right there with you.
Michael, I appreciate your call. I guess I'm not really worried about me. Here are the two things that I don't feel like I do. And I feel like I get accused of it, and that's fine. And that's, I never am too loyal to a person, like in this town. I am never too loyal to one person. Like, I'm not loyal to a coach. I'm not loyal to a quarterback. I'm not loyal to a goalie. I'm not loyal to like, if UC Soros were to go out there and steal a playoff series for the Predators, which, holy crap, does that feel like it's far and far and far away. If something like that were to happen, I'd be thrilled. I'd be so happy. I love my team. Like, I think I could share this. I don't think this would surprise anybody. Over the last couple of seasons, I've had some contentious talks with the Titans, with all different people at all different levels. Ian, I'm sure that's not surprising in the least, is it?
Not overly, no.
So we've had some talks, again, professional. Not like LeBron and Stephen A. Smith yesterday, which that was LeBron's got to stop embarrassing himself with this Bronny James bullcrap, but that's a different topic for a less serious day. But the one thing I always say, it doesn't matter who it is with the Titans. I love the Titans. And all I want to see is the Titans do well. And I don't care who the coach is for them to do well. I don't care who the GM is for them to do well, who the quarterback is. That's how I feel about this. So I know I'm not loyal to one person or one coach or one GM or one play. I'm not. Just like I don't think you should be loyal to me. If I start mailing it in and stop providing what I think is good radio, change a channel. If I'm not doing my job, you should like somebody else. And because of that, I don't, when people are like, well, you said this and that's how I felt that day. And today, I feel incredibly depressed about the state of my hockey team. More of your phones, 615-737-1025. More of your reaction. Again, Barry at 3 o'clock, Stillman and Company, 1025-1063 the game. Stillman and Company, 1025 the game. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Now that is a brand that I am loyal to. Salute. Nobody wants to deal with a plumbing, HVAC, or electrical emergency ever. And most of the time, you don't want to know what it'll cost because it's going to be so high. Well, with Hiller, they'll tell you up front. That's why they've got true transparency pricing, which I absolutely love. And with Hiller, it will get fixed correctly. When you call Hiller, their experts are going to solve your problems quickly. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. The price you're told is the price you'll pay with no hidden fees or surprises on your bill. So do like I do and book online by visiting happyhiller.com. That's happyhiller.com.
Last minute possibility. We're hearing that Brad Marchand could become a Florida Panther.
Holy. I said get out of the East, Brad. I said get out of the East.
So he and Sam Bennett rectified their differences at Four Nations, and now potentially they can be teammates.
I don't know.
Potentially.
I don't know how this is going to look. He's out for a little bit of time, but I'm starting to get people telling me that they're hearing that Brad Marchand could be traded to Florida.
Wow. Okay. We had the Woj bombs. That's a Frege firecracker.
There you go. That was the big move from the deadline. I guess at the very, 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 very end, Brad Marchand to Florida. You know, the one thing I will say about the deadline, and this could have been a big opportunity for the Predators because some of these teams, like half the league's general managers must be getting fired after the year because some of these teams just fired off crazy amounts at the deadline. I never really feel like deadline rentals help you win. That's just me. I know Vingin will say that, Ivan Barbashev 3 years ago had 5 goals in the playoffs for the Golden Knights. But other than that, like, I always see all this talk around the deadline. I feel like it never really matters. Phone lines, of course, driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Barry Trotz, expected at 3 o'clock, might be a little bit after 3 as the Predators have some house cleaning that I don't know what's going down or not. But again, Barry, 3 o'clock here on the program. Let's go to Jordan, who's up next here on our program as we react to the Predators' actions at the trade deadline. Go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, hey, Jared. Thanks for having me. Just a couple things here. I think, one, Barry Trotz should probably just get rid of Kyle Dubas's phone number altogether, because if you look at the body of work, Pittsburgh has fleeced him on a lot of deals. You go Tomasino, Glass, Novak, Shin. We gave up draft picks for them to take Glass, and then they turned Glass into a third-round pick to New Jersey on this deadline. Not to mention what you've been talking about, Luke Shin. Just have to agree with you. When I called in, I said it was kind of general management malpractice. If you look at like some of the comments that Barry has said, and I'm a Barry fan. Like, I was really intrigued to see how he would be as a general manager, and I've been flat out just unimpressed. But if you look at what he said in the past, is that he doesn't want guys coming to Nashville as a retirement, kind of idea or a place to retire, but yet treating Ryan O'Reilly as if he's got a no move clause and saying no to multiple teams. It's been reported saying no to multiple teams at this deadline, that he's not going to trade him for. We could have gotten a massive haul. When you look at, you've mentioned Brock Nelson and other players. He probably could have named his price with Ryan O'Reilly. And I'm a huge O'Reilly fan. Don't want to see him go. But when you look at the state of the franchise, it's not, we're starting to kind of go towards Buffalo Sabres trajectory here, where they just could never get out of their own way. And they just constantly had bad choices being made by general managers. And to say you don't want guys to come here to retire and then give a guy that doesn't have a no trade clause or a no move clause, basically that kind of protection is just kind of malpractice. Like, if you've got massive offers, New Jersey, Winnipeg, amongst others, we're talking to them. I've seen it reported. You kind of have to go with that and try to do what you can to make this team better. But it's been embarrassing, honestly. I'm not even talking about just the gameplay on the ice. It's just the moves that Trotz has been making, whether we like Novak, Shin, Tomasino, Glass, you name it. The moves he's making are pretty embarrassing, and it's pretty easy to see that other general managers kind of see Nashville as a place where they can come pick their player, name their price, and get what they want. So, big fan of the show. Don't always agree, but today is definitely a massively frustrating day.
Jordan, thank you for the call. I will say this, as far as the moves are being concerned, I do wonder if the rest of the league is now looking at Nashville as a place where we can take advantage of them, because it does look like Pittsburgh's taking advantage of you. And I mean, I keep thinking about last year. Last year on this day, I remember, we've talked about the free agent boards or whatever. If you're looking at the stream, like how I do my own notes and stuff with the different colors and and last year, I remember sitting down at my counter and just kind of mapping out what the Predators had at the NHL level, what they had coming, down the pipe, where I felt like all the draft picks they had, the cap space. I said, they got cap space, they got picks, they're in the playoffs, they got players. And Trotz had made the moves for Jason Zucker and Anthony Beauvillier, and he didn't give up anything. And I was like, holy crap, this is too good to be true. And right now I feel the 180 of this. And the reason I say this is because the reason that I'm not totally out is because I remember what happened last year. Last year, it felt like they were playing from ahead for some reason. This year, it feels like ever since the 0-5 start, even from a roster management standpoint, it feels like they've been playing from behind. And this deadline, I do wonder if teams are going to start looking at the Predators saying, my goodness, they'll give us players that they don't want. We'll just take Dante Fabro from them. We'll just take, Philip Tomasino from them. And I cannot get over the Shin thing. Like, that's the one that irks me. One texter says, Barry got fleeced, and he's right. Who cares about the picks? We can't draft anyway. But the problem is that a real GM just absolutely pantsed the Predators today. I would say that, again, more so than losing the second round, but the Predators got 100 picks. More so than losing the picks, it's the idea that, man, you valued this at a 3, and Pittsburgh turned around and sold it for a 6 out of 10. And that's the tough part, at least as far as I'm concerned. And the one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to forget about what happened last year. And that's the only thing that has not made this a terrible. Let's go to Bob, who's up next here on our program. Bob, thank you for calling. By the way, Adam Finken's mad at my impression of him, which only makes me want to do it more. Bob, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Where does the board of directors and the president lead into this? Because best I can figure, if I remember back to 2007, we were desperate to get people to invest in the team. There's nobody in their management that I know that even ice skates, much less ever played hockey. So do they not have some call into putting pressure on GMs? I mean, granted, with you, I do remember the last 3 or 4 years because I knew David Poyle fairly well. I was very disappointed in a lot of his moves the last 3 or 4 years. But again, back to the board of directors and the president of the team. These aren't ice hockey people. They need to have some blood in the game. So I'd like to know what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, Sean Henry's been doing this for a long time. He's the CEO of the team. He's, was in Tampa and other places. I think at the end of the day, though, the bigger question, and I appreciate the call, Bob, and I understand the anger. I mean, isn't this the case with all the sports? At the end of the day, it all goes up to the owner, and the owner, Bill Haslam, has no experience as far as playing hockey is concerned, at least to my knowledge, and that's probably not going to change. I mean, I don't foresee him doing it, just like Amy's not going to change. The owner ends up making the call, and you don't fire the owner. So I don't think that's really that big of a deal. The Bruins suck this year and are having the same problems you're having, and they've got Cam Neely running their team. And Cam Neely's pretty darn good. So to me, that's an overrated element of it. Okay, Barry Trotz set to join us coming up next. I got questions on what has felt like a terrible, terrible deadline for the Predators. We will do that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106 through the game. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063, The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. And we are presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. The NHL trade deadline has passed. And the Predators today, so far, quiet. Now, I think I saw Elliot Friedman, somebody put out there, say, hey, there may still be some moves coming down the pipe. Who knows? But as of right now, the Preds at the deadline. Gus Nyquist out in exchange for a 2026 second. Luke Schenn and Tommy Novak out in exchange for Michael Bunting and a fourth-round pick. And then the move that I think a lot of people, including me today, were kind of shocked by, which was the Pittsburgh Penguins turning around and flipping Luke Schenn for a second and a fourth. The man making the decisions for the Nashville Predators, Barry Trotz, joins us now on the program. Barry, how are you?
I'm good.
Okay, I want to jump right into it. In a seller's market, I was glued to the phone today, just constantly on Twitter, waiting for there to be, seeing some of the packages that were going across the league. And I'm sitting here looking at a second, a fourth, and Michael Bunting.
Yep.
Is that good enough?
Yeah, absolutely. I can explain the thought process. We came to a conclusion that Tommy Novak was someone that would be in the way of some of the things that we want to do going forward. There was a big dollar to Tommy, and so we identified a player that would be an upgrade. Michael Bunting is, if you look, he's played in the top six for the Leafs and Pittsburgh the last couple of years. Carolina. He is the guy that we sort of targeted, that we felt that could take us out of free agency next year, have an asset. He's in a 1-year deal. It's perfect flexibility for us. And they would take Tommy Novak, but Tommy Novak, in their eyes, wasn't the player that Bunting is. Plus, there was an extra a couple of years of $3.5 million. So there's a cost to that. So we got into a bigger deal. I could move Luke Schenn for a different, a higher pick, but there was no retention from us coming. I don't know completely on that deal. I think there might have been some retention from the Pittsburghs. Retention usually moves you up a spot. So if Luke Schenn was worth a third, they got a second, and then the fourth was with the prospect in there. So those things sort of add up. It's like counting.
I believe it has been reported that there was no retention.
Okay.
On the Pittsburgh.
So, but there was another prospect in there. So that's where the picks and that can be a little bit convoluted in that. So when we sat down to get the Michael Bunting, which was our focus in that trade, we got Luke Schenn, and we settled on the fourth to do our business up front. And I fully was aware that they could turn him and flip him if they needed to. So you don't look back on anything like that. We got the player that we wanted. We have lots of picks in terms of that. So we've done a couple deals in the past that we took the pick in a prospect type of thing. This was to move probably $7 million in some term for a player that we felt can help in our top six, a player who we could re-sign. It takes us out of free agency, and a player that if we couldn't re-sign, I'm going to get a really good pick for him next year because he's a good player. And that's what people tend to forget. They look at the immediate return, and you don't look at the long term because, you can turn some people over. I mean, Pittsburgh did a lot of that. They turned Cody Glass into another pick. That's what you do, and we'll take some players on. We've taken players on and flipped them like in the past, and we will continue to do that. So we're not done. This is just a sort of sweep the porch to get things cleared. We've got a lot of flexibility. I said from day one that we were going to keep some older players, and we went into free agent to sort of extend us through a window where we can be competitive, but we had picks coming, but we have to buy some time for our young guys to develop or even get here. I love like Edstrom is a good player for us. Wood, we've got Mollendijk, all these players coming, but they're not here yet. They're not even in Milwaukee yet. So we're trying to be competitive get our young guys to play with other guys, and we talked about that blend. So the plan has always been in Penn. From day one, I said I'm going to have some older guys, and we're going to wait for our young guys. We're going to have to be patient. We're going to try to extend the window to be the competitive. I want to be playing meaningful games. It didn't happen this year, so the plan had good intentions. It just didn't work out this year with the way it went for us, injuries, all the things. I can give you 1,000 different excuses, but I don't want excuses. The plan has not changed. It'll continue there, and the path is in pencil. I thought we'd be playing, right in the mix with, say, Utah's and all that right now, and trying to catch, that wild card position. Expectations were a lot higher. That was the danger with the signings, because they're sexy signings, but at the same time, you got to be realistic, and I don't think anybody was totally realistic on that, and I tried to temper that down a little bit. But like you say, the things won't change for us. We're going to use younger players. I'm going to try to get faster with those younger players. I'm going to try to get more competitive. A good example of sort of that blending in the game last night. We had Stamkos, O'Reilly, Evangelista. He got elevated. You're looking for some speed guys. You look at a guy like Ozzy Weisblatt went in the lineup. He added a little bit of that pop and speed. So we've got those guys coming. Reed Schaefer would be here right now. Svechkov is a good example of a guy that probably is here a little bit too soon, just because of the fact that we just ended up with injuries and some just situational stuff that he had to come up and he's had to stay. He's not getting a lot of production right now. His production in the American League, this would probably be the time if he was down in the American League a little bit longer this year, he would probably be coming up and you'd be giving him that audition. We just had to do it, probably 4 months, 40 games before we wanted to. And that's, but the plan doesn't change. We've got to just continue to peel off pieces, add some of our prospects, draft well. Hopefully, I watched this last night. Here's a team that was in Seattle, which was a team that was on the upsurge, I guess. And all of a sudden, they're only a few points ahead of us. So they're having a season that they probably didn't expect right now, and they peeled some pieces off. So all these teams are doing that. We're just in different parts of our evolution. So anytime someone flips a pick on you and gets a higher pick, good for them. We got the player we wanted. So I'm not concerned about that.
So when you saw, because the reaction that I think a lot of fans had, Barry, and I would include myself in this in my phone, was when I saw the tweet, and I can't remember which hockey insider tweeted out, a second and a fourth for Schenn, my jaw hit the floor thinking, wait a minute. So the Predators flipped him and somebody else and got a fourth, and Michael Bunting, who might be a great player, but he's got a career high of 63 points. And the Penguins got a second out of this. And what's crazy, Barry, is I don't even care about the pick as much as I care about it. Just feels like Pittsburgh got more value than the Preds did.
Well, that's your opinion. That's, everybody has an opinion, and there's a saying with, about opinions. So I'll just leave it off because it's probably a little bit too dark for radio, but maybe not you. Not you. That'd be a personal thing. But no, you got to look at the player, the pick they got too. Is he, if they would have did a loan trade with that for that pick, would they have got a third for him? So it's a second and a the second and the fourth. It doesn't really matter. Sometimes when people look at the second, a good example, I had a higher pick for Luke Schenn on a single deal, just alone, but I couldn't get to where I wanted to with Bunting. On a single deal was probably it was a third round, but I know it was going to be a very late third round. Pittsburgh, I expect not to be, in the top of the National Hockey League next year. They're in the same mode we are. The difference between that pick in the third and the pick I got in the fourth was 8 or 10 spots. People have to realize sometimes in the National Hockey League, we're drafting 18-year-old kids. The percentage of kids that are playing in the National Hockey League, you really get the same player at the end of the third round as you do early in the fourth round. Just if you just look historically. So it looks maybe like a lot, but it's not as much as you think, depending on where that team finishes, because you could get a pick that's right at the end of the a certain round, and you could get a good example for us this year. We have if the Vegas Golden Knights win the Stanley Cup, we will have the 32nd pick because we have their first round pick. We'll have 32nd pick. We have our own pick, and if it was today, we would have the 35th pick. There's not a lot of difference between 32 and 35. That sometimes gets lost in, oh, they did this, and then you get the I'll say the coach general managers, the coach quarterbacks, whatever you want. They're good talk for your show, but the reality is we felt we got really good value for a player that we wanted, not a player that we took, a player that we wanted. So it's on us. We feel Michael Bunting is a guy who's ultra competitive. He's a pain in the ass to play against, and we need a little more of that. So we got the player we want, and you know this. I don't mind overpaying a little bit to get the player that we want. I've said that from day one, and so if I overpaid to get Michael Bunting, that's on me. But I feel really good about it.
Barry Trotz is with us. What happened with Ryan O'Reilly? Because there have been a lot of reports, a lot of conjecture, a lot of speculation. It sounds like you had some deals in place, and O'Reilly, who doesn't have trade protection, turned him down. What happened there with O'Reilly?
No, I think it was like I said, the plan for us is exactly what I said. We're going to have good people around them. Let our kids come in. I mean, the first the pick that we get for Ryan O'Reilly, whatever it would be, that's 5 years from now. If we just took it and developed it, or I can turn it around and try to get a player. But we have enough picks. What I need is players that can play. If someone wanted to give me a pick, I will take them. I can bundle them, and I could try to do that. But if you look for core players, you get them in the draft. You get your core players in the draft. It's very hard to do a Jack Eichel trade. Those that they were able to do. There has to be a falling out. Jack Eichel had a falling out with, say, Buffalo. That's very difficult. Those trades come around very seldom. So you don't have those assets to sometimes get those unless you have a lot of picks, and we have them. So if there's one that comes around the corner, we'll do that. We have that ability. So two things that happened for us. We collected more draft capital. We have a ton of cap space. We've also added a player that we feel that will be in our top 6. And I always said I want to build a top 9. So we'll continue to do that. And we've got an ultra competitive guy in Bunting. So that's what we want to do. We were limited. We weren't trading a Brock Nelson. You're going to get a good return for Brock Nelson. That type of thing. So we may cross that path with Ryan, but I felt at least one more year here with our young guys in that, that we can cross that boat with Ryan. Next year, he may say, hey, I'm here for the long haul. And then he doesn't have any trade protection. That's on me to say, listen, I got this great deal. I didn't feel I had the deal that would put me over the top with Ryan O'Reilly. So I'm trusting that we've got a good leader, a guy that can mentor our kids, a guy that can continue to, he gets the hard matchups night in and night out. There's no question.
Sure, but just on that front to clarify, so did you have a deal done that O'Reilly said, no, I'd rather not, or did you not get to that point?
No, we never even got to that point. There wasn't, everybody was throwing sticks at me. I was looking for some trees. So that was not anything that was there. So I never had that conversation with him or his agent because that deal was not there.
Barry Trotz is with us. Were there any other kind of offers out there for the other centers, McCarron and Sissons? Again, these are solid NHL centers. This is a seller's market there. I mean, Barry, half your colleagues must be getting fired at the end of the year because I see some of the trades that went down, and I'm almost like these guys are dealing away future assets that they feel like they're not going to be able to use because they might be getting fired if they don't go deep into playoffs. Was there a deal that you could have made for McCarron or Sissons? I mean, they've been here for a while, but for a team collecting assets, it seems like the opportunity to maybe garner some more there.
Yeah, I think there. Yeah, if I say there wasn't possible deals, I could have made deals. In that, some of the things that were offered for them weren't really, like Mike McCarron does a lot of things for us right now, and his salary number is good. That I didn't feel in certain things when there was deals proposed by other teams or we were trying to make a deal on that it made any sense for us to do that, because sometimes when you move an asset, it might cost you double or triple to replace it because those guys are established and they do certain things. If I go to the trade deadline next year with either one of those players, I think the value will be fairly close to what was offered to me this year. And I'm pretty certain about that. And I don't want to go any further than that.
Barry Trotz is with us on the program. A lot's changed in the last year. I remember we were talking on the day of the trade deadline, and you had acquired Zucker and Beauvillier, and it felt like, kind of these late round picks, and the team had a bunch of cap space, and they had a bunch of, future assets and everything else. And you still have those things, but the team is not in the same place they were this time last year. I guess I wonder, what do you make of what's happened in the last year, where you had a team that probably punched above its weight and looked like a playoff contender, and then you spend the money in free agency, and this team on paper looks great, but doesn't look as great on the ice, and now you're kind of in a selling mode, and you're still trying to. Are you surprised by what's happened over the last year and the position you find yourself in right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, to be honest with you, I thought we'd be, a little closer to the pack than we were. I said I was going to take my swings. I mean, you'd be, if I didn't take my swings at last year at the not trade deadline, the free agency, I'd be getting the calls. Hey, we didn't do anything. What's going on? Da da da. I took some swings. I asked my scouts to take swings. I'm going to take swings. They're all calculated swings. And they're with all good intentions. Sometimes they don't work out, and this year it hasn't worked out for us. Doesn't mean it going forward, if we tweak something here and there, that it doesn't come together for us. I mean, there's games when you look at us, you look at our record against teams like Winnipeg, Colorado in our division, and it's a hard division. We have a decent record considering our lot in life this year. Where we don't have a good record is a lot of the teams that are, we don't play a lot. We haven't done very well. Our road record is not good enough for us to get in the playoffs. Our home record's not quite there, but we play some pretty good teams. And if there was a time and a place where I thought our season went south, it wasn't necessarily at the start of the season. There was a lot of pressure on us in that part, and we weren't together. But where we were just coming back, and I felt that we were sort of getting traction. We had that span of 11 games, and I think we only had 3 regulation losses, but we had like 6 overtime losses. And then the one game that really I felt that defined our season, I thought we played one of our best games of the absolute season against the Philadelphia Flyers, and they scored late to tie it and win in overtime. And it was one of those games that sort of put us in the spin cycle. And then, you get some injuries on the back end, and you get some doubt in there, and it would unravel for us a little bit, unfortunately.
Barry, last one for you. What would you say to the fans today that they see other sellers at the deadline that are making trades and getting first round picks, and, it's maybe some young players and things in exchange, that are looking at the sellers getting richer today and are looking at the path of this team, where right now the talk of a number 1 pick is more prevalent than the talk of the playoffs, and kind of what the vision for the future and getting out of this and when that may happen? What would your message for those fans be?
Just, I just said, this is going to be a process. You got to stay patient with it. I mean, we're in the McDonald's area. You want us to be in first place, and then it doesn't go that way, and then you're everybody rips us for, not being there, or rips us for doing nothing in free agency. and then we do something in free agency and it doesn't work out and we get ripped. So you got to ignore that. Some of the fans, I say, the plan hasn't changed. That's something that hasn't changed. We should have a better team than we had this year in terms of on the ice. That part is, we just never got it together, and we may get it together, but it's going to be too late. But it is a process that it hasn't changed, and we're just going to continue to be patient, continue to add players, continue to add prospects, continue to draft well, and then we're going to have a good team. But our core, you look at the top teams right now. We look at our whole division. You look at Colorado and Dallas, and they already have their core, and so they're able to take those big swings in free agency. Our core is not, our young core is not here yet, and we have to be patient and wait for it. That is our lot in life. We've gone 14, 16 years of missing the playoffs, I think once in 16 years. You can help me with the math or whatever, but so we haven't been able to replenish that core for 14 or 15 years. And to be expected to do it in 1 or 2 years, that's ludicrous. We watch teams that have been trying to do it for a dozen years. So, for me to answer that very accurately, we're going to be this on this date, I cannot do that. That would be an insult to you, and it would be an insult to our fans. This is something that we have to continue to do those things, and we're going to take our swings when we can go in free agency. We got $20 million. We can go and make a big splash again, but it has to make sense for the long haul. Or we can, I'm going to continue to open up holes for our young prospects. Just expect that. So, next year at the trade deadline, if we're not there, there's someone else going to get peeled off. That's the lot in life of where we are. And a good player is going to come in there and play. And he's going to be surrounded with some veteran guys. And we're going to build that till we can, build a really good young core. And then we're still dangerous with the number of picks that we've acquired over the years, and we're still dangerous with the number of draft choices we have. So that's what I would say. The future is bright, but you got to be patient. It's not going to happen overnight.
Barry Trotz, as always, taking the time to join us here on the trade deadline. Barry, appreciate it as always.
All right, take care.
Yep, that was Barry Trotz, Predators general manager. We'll get your reaction. 615-737-1025 on the phones. And I think I get the message. I really do. We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company, 102.5 The Game. Stillman and Company, I appreciate Barry Trotz coming on the program. And I appreciate the fact that when it comes to, again, like answering the questions we asked about the fact that it looked like Kyle Dubas turned around and dumped off Luke Shin and what we make of all of that. Here's the messages I got from Barry Trotz's interview. Number one, fans, be patient. Again, and I'm not carrying water for Trotz or echoing his message or anything because this is sports. And in sports, nobody's patient. And last year, this team was going to the playoffs, and the hope is you carry the momentum forward. But when he took the job and they tore the team down right there at that 23 deadline, it kind of always has been about Mullendijk and Wood and Schaefer and Surin and all these picks and everything. It's always been about that. So I do understand what he's saying about Kimmel and like, hey, this is the next wave. Svechkov, this is the next wave. But again, it's sports. And in sports, we ain't going to be that patient. And that was his first message. The second thing was he does not care about what Kyle Dubas did with Luke Shin. Whether he doesn't care because, as he said, he could have had a deal on the table for more in return just for Luke Shin. I don't think he wanted to say this, but I think what he was trying to say was, I got rid of Tommy Novak for whatever that's worth. And maybe he should have just come out and said it because he said he had a better deal for just Luke Shin on the table. Doesn't care about what Pittsburgh got in exchange for Luke Shin. Whether or not that's the right thing, again, that is up for you to decide. To me, I can't just, I told him, I said, when I looked at it and I said, what's going on here? Which is how I felt. He really hyped up this Michael Bunting. Look, I've never heard of this guy, and you know what the rules are on this show. If I've never heard of a guy in the NHL, he's not any good. Although, Ian, who was the guy we like now? Sanderson?
Yes, we do like Jake Sanderson.
Sanderson, we didn't know him, and now he played in the Four Nations, so now we like him. And
you mean your total flip-flop on him? Yes.
Sanderson. Trot says they already have enough picks, so the idea of adding more picks, I don't totally disagree with that, though you always have more picks. If you make 100 draft picks, what are the chances are that one of the 100 is really, really good? And I guess I don't know about you guys, but I was confused about the whole O'Reilly thing. He says that it never got far enough that they took it to O'Reilly, but on Twitter, the insiders made it sound like that was the case. I got to tell you, I'm not liking what I'm seeing, but I will give him credit because for 25 minutes, he stood up here and took the bullets and didn't say the puck didn't bounce their way. Now, the idea of me getting excited about the $20 million in cap space they have after last offseason is going to be really hard for me to do. And I'm not sure personally that I feel like they're closer to, I don't know. I'm not sure I like the idea of, hey, we all have to be patient on all these young prospects. Because at some point, I want to see these guys on the Predators and playing well on the Predators, and I want to see that soon. Let's go to your phones next. Stillman and Company on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. It's 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
We've got to just continue to peel off pieces, add some of our prospects, draft well. Hopefully, I watched this last night. Here's a team that was in Seattle, which was a team that was on the upsurge, I guess. And all of a sudden, they're only a few points ahead of us. So they're having a season that they probably didn't expect right now, and they peeled some pieces off. So all these teams are doing that. We're just in different parts of our evolution. So, anytime someone flips a pick on you and gets a higher pick, good for them. We got the player we wanted. So I'm not concerned about that.
We will be watching Michael Bunting very closely because I had never heard of Michael Bunting, and I just figured, again, he was just some Scarbini, that they didn't want, and you got rid of two guys you didn't want, and so that's why. And now all of a sudden it's like, whoa, who cares what Winnipeg paid for Luke Schenn? Jared, we got Michael Bunting. So, Ian, we will be watching Michael Bunting
looking forward to it.
Very closely. Very closely. But he's recovering from an appendectomy right now, and he needs to recover for the rest of the year because this team doesn't need to win any more games. Let's go to your phones, which are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Your reaction to the Trotz interview as promised. Lucas is up next here on the program. Lucas, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Jared, first time, long time. I got to say, I'm from Milwaukee, so I got to complain here for a second. I know you don't care about the Admirals, but you got Ozzie Weisblatt, Spencer Stasny, Jake Lucchini, all guys that it's 4:00 now and we haven't seen them put on paper transaction. No mention from Trotz. What's going on with that?
What do you mean?
They need to be on papers. They need to be on the Milwaukee roster today to be eligible for the playoff.
Time out. Wait a minute. What are you calling me about?
The Milwaukee Admirals.
But what specifically about them? You're mad at Barry Trotz today because he's not making a transaction for the Milwaukee Admirals playoff run?
We're doing all the work, Jared. We're developing these players a little bit.
Get the hell out of here. We don't care about – look, let me just say this. Whatever you want to go root for the Milwaukee Admirals, great. I'm happy for you. People can root for whatever they want to root for. There are some people that care about Division III college tiddlywinks. If you want to care about that, fine. But we on this show care about the Predators, the Milwaukee Admirals. You know what? I'm glad because I'm sure Barry Trotz would love for those guys to play extra in the AHL playoffs. So if he's not putting the papers in there, it's probably some sort of oversight. But I'm glad that he's not wasting his time caring about the Milwaukee Admirals in the playoffs. Oh, my goodness gracious. Scott, you're up next here on the program. Do you want to talk about the OHL team or the ECHL team, or what do we want to go ahead, Scott?
No, I didn't want to react to Trotz's interview. I wanted to react to you losing it before the Trotz interview. I wanted to talk about Schenn and McCarron and go back. And you said that this was the worst you felt about the Preds in years because the Penguins pantsed Barry Trotz. The Penguins didn't pants Barry Trotz. The Penguins pantsed the Jets. That's what you need to realize. And I'm a Luke Schenn fan. You say he's worthless. Well, if you think he's worthless, you can't complain that they didn't get enough for him. But I don't think
clearly he's not worthless. But I mean,
he doesn't fit. He doesn't fit our current system. Whether we're going to keep our current system, I don't know. We need faster skaters, but he's a tough guy, and he's great on the penalty kill. And there's definitely a place for those defensive defensemen, but he's nowhere near worth a second and a fourth. So just get over that. He pants the Jets. He didn't pants us. Now on McCarron, there's no way I wanted McCarron traded. McCarron makes $900K. You cannot replace him for that. He is worth way more than that. I know he doesn't score. That's not his job. He wins his face-offs. And with Schenn gone, he's our only tough guy. He's the guy that's going to keep Yossi from getting another.
You can go get another tough guy from Milwaukee as long as you get the paperwork done in the right way.
Not one for that price that plays as well as and does the things that he does. He wins his face-offs. He does the things he needs to do.
So
there's
a bunch of
not
Preds
the
fans that are
market for him
crying.
where you're going to get a second rounder. He's more valuable, and I'm glad he's down. I wouldn't have been upset if they'd traded Sissons. I think the market was probably there for Sissons, but there's no way I want them to dump somebody who's valuable to the team who makes $900K. You don't dump guys who aren't making any money. You dump guys who are making more than they're worth.
Well, I say that you dump guys that
McCarron is
aren't
the
part
type
of
of
the
guy we want
solution.
to acquire, not the type of guy we want to dump.
I don't look at
And
McCarron.
that's just basic hockey education.
Scott, thank you for your call. I don't look at McCarron as the kind of guy you want to acquire. Again, do you need fourth line tough guys that will get in front of a puck on the penalty kill? That if you got to drop them, they'll drop them. Sure, great. But again, you can get that anywhere, and you can get that for $900,000. That's like when they protected Tanner Jeannot, and David Poyle was like, "Just trust me on this," and I'm like, "But that's you can go get those guys wherever." Now it ended up working out because they got a crap load of picks in exchange for Jeannot, but you can get that kind of player wherever. My bigger issue is more so with the idea of Barry not knowing the market. The fact that, again, the one thing that I think Barry was saying without saying it was I think he thinks Novak sucks. And I agree. And he was just happy to get rid of Novak. And he won't say it. I don't think they think that much of Michael Bunting. And I think they probably do look at the Winnipeg deal and think, oh, crap, the way we do. But I do think they looked at this as this is our way to get rid of Novak, for whatever that's worth. Back to your phones, more of them next. 615-737-1025. Stillman and Company, 1025-1063 The Game. I need to get this out there. Vandy Baseball. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan today as Vandy Baseball hosts Xavier. Pregame begins at 4:15. First pitch at 4:30. Coverage also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at thegamenashville.com.
But the reality is we felt we got really good value for a player that we wanted, not a player that we took, a player that we wanted. So it's on us. We feel Michael Bunting is a guy who's ultra competitive. He's a pain in the ass to play against, and we need a little more of that. So we got the player we want, and you know this. I don't mind overpaying a little bit to get the player that we want. I've said that from day one. And so if I overpaid to get Michael Bunting, that's on me, but I feel really good about it.
That was Barry Trotz. Again, he was kind of highlighting the Michael Bunting thing. The one thing I do want to say that I think, again, and I love Barry, but he's kind of a long talker. The one thing I do want to say is I do think that what he's trying to tell you is when I took the job as general manager, we were tearing the team apart, and tearing the team apart led to the Ekholm deals and the Jeannot deals and like those deals, which led to Mullendijk and Wood and those players. So it's going to take a while. David Edstrom, it's going to take a while before those players are ready to be core NHL players. I last year was surprised this team made it to the playoffs. So I tried to, give it a punch with Stamkos and those guys, but it didn't work. But again, I'm still more focused on Wood and Edstrom and Mullendijk and Surin and these 3 first-round picks this year and so on and so forth. Just not sure that's going to long-term. I just don't think that necessarily works well enough in sports. Okay, let's go to your phones, which have been driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Rich is up next here on the program. Rich, thank you for calling and waiting. You go ahead.
Jared, every year it seems we have this conversation about all the picks the Preds accumulate. We got 4 number 1s. We've got 3 number 2s. We got, 40 number 3s. Nothing ever seems to pan out. And then today we hear Trotz talk about, well, we always have the option to bundle them. Is that really an option? Can we bundle these guys and get a named player that is productive at all? What's your thoughts?
So I think that's a really, really good question. It's actually crazy how good of a question I think that is. Not so much about could the Predators take these 3 first-round picks and deal it and get a good player? That's not what I'm talking about. By the way, the answer is yes, because your pick might be in the top 3 where there are 3 elite game changers. And then that is when you do not trade that pick. But what I do think the Predators can make deals, and if they're good next year, they'll have the ability to make deals and things of that magnitude. There was a pick this morning that I saw, and I forget who acquired the player. I actually think it was the Islanders. They acquired a center named Callum Ritchie. And Ian, I think that was in the Brock Nelson deal, right?
Could be right. I did not see that, actually. I did not see that name.
Okay, so Cal Ritchie. And Frank Saravalli at Daily Faceoff said that, wow, what a haul the Islanders got. He goes, Cal Ritchie is a can't-miss prospect. Well, I've never heard of Cal Ritchie. Again, the prospects, how do I know 19-year-old Scandinavians? But I looked it up, and he's a top 20 prospect, like a tier 4 prospect, according to The Athletic. And tier 1 is Crosby, McDavid, Matthews. So we're talking, probably more of a second, first line guy, but not a star. So this Cal Ritchie is 20 years old, and he projects to be a top 6 center. And New York, again, acquired him in the Brock Nelson deal. And that's where, if I'm Barry Trotz, a guy that's played 7 games in the NHL, so he's very close to NHL ready, young, former first-round pick centerman, ready to go, that's where I'm picking up the phone and calling Lou Lamoriello, my former boss on the island, and I'm saying, hey, what will it take to get this prospect you just acquired from Colorado? I'll give you 2 seconds. I'll give you Vegas's first, whatever. What does it take? And that's the kind of player that I would have liked to add today. A 20-year-old center who's ready for the NHL. Now, look, maybe Lou Lamoriello's like, Barry, I know why you're calling for this player, and that's exactly the kind of player I'm going to go get. But those are the kind of moves, like the creative type moves, that I'm thinking that I'm wishing they would have made. However much, they could have or couldn't have. Catcher says, after every trade, Trotz keeps saying, I wanted him or he is a great player. I don't think these players live up to what he says, so I don't have a good feeling about Bunting. One texter says, Yossi will be 40 by the time we're good again. Again, I know that Trotz said that everyone wants to live in the McDonald's society, and I know what that means. Like, I expect the Predators to be competing for the playoffs next year. And if they're not, you thought this interview was tough. I mean, they're going to be tougher. But again, when it comes to the actual picks, it's like they do have enough picks to be able to go get enough young impact players. Here's what scares me. And I brought this up to Barry in the last interview we did with him, not the one today. But here's what scares me. Matthew Wood, David Edstrom is somewhat viewed as a high-end prospect. Matthew Wood, Tanner Mullendijk, Teddy Stiga, Igor Surin, the young guy Schaefer, Kemmel, Svechkov, those guys. When I look at what the prospect gurus rank these guys at, they don't rank them very high as far as the rest of the league is concerned. Whereas that Cal Ritchie is ranked very high. That's the stuff that worries me. The Predators love this Andrew Gibson, whom they traded a second-round pick for with Detroit last year, who was with Tanner Mullendijk on Team Canada at the World Juniors. And they love him. They think Mullendijk and Gibson's going to be a first pair in 6 years. But he's not even ranked that high. The prospect gurus say he's like a big picture third pair defenseman. And that's the stuff that scares me. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number. Free agency in the NFL opens on Monday. And I have my free agent plan. We do it every year for the Titans. What should they do? We'll get to that next. It's a yearly tradition unlike any other. 615-737-1025. And we actually pretend that the salary cap matters in order to make these deals where it has to be within the cap. This week's Nationals Best Deal is from Brewster's Real Ice Cream in Hendersonville. See why Brewster's is a scoop above the rest with the best ice cream shakes, sundaes, splits, blacks, and more. Visit theGameNashville.com/deals now and get half off a $50 gift card while supplies last. Fireball Whiskey. It's that time of the week. It's Fireball Hot Take Friday. It is the best. You know, Fireball Whiskey goes down so smooth and it tastes so great. There is no better way to ignite the night and to start your weekend than with ice cold Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. I love Fireball Whiskey. Again, goes down so smooth and it tastes so great. So be sure to kick off your weekend the right way with Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. Ignite the night. Please do it responsibly and be 21 years or older to enjoy. That's Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. Stillman and Company, 1025, 106 for the game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, and we are presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. It is a Fireball Hot Take Friday, and it is a very special Friday. Not only is it NHL Trade Deadline Friday, but by the time we hit the air on Monday, deals around the National Football League will be reported. Free agency is here. And every Friday before free agency opens on Monday, we do the official Stillman and Company Titans free agent plan. The way we do this is we look at the cash. We look at the, the phony baloney cap, Ian. We actually pay attention to the cap.
Yeah, we do.
For whatever that's worth. Whatever. We take a look at the phony baloney cap, and then we make the moves. This is what the Titans should do. Don't call us armchair quarterbacks. Do not call us second guessers. This is first guessing. And I'll never forget, the first time I did this was like for 2021 or maybe 22. I can't remember. And I remember doing the research on players and free agency and things like that and saying, man, I can't believe I'm saying this, but this Morgan Moses, he starts every game. They should sign him. And I said they should sign him for a 3-year, I think it was like $5 million, something like that, a 3-year, $30 million contract. He got 3 years, 15 from the Ravens, and he started every game. So we take the free agency plan very, very serious. We start with, according to Spot Track, where the Titans sit. This was as of this morning, so the Titans have released Harold Landry, which is included in our decisions. But the Titans had a current cash entering the day at $181.2 million. The Titans had a current cap space before the Landry moved at 52.2. And I've set the cash target, Ian, at $280 million cash. Fair?
Yeah, close enough. Yeah.
279
279
is
is
the
the cap. 280. Okay. Yeah. It's whatever. Yep.
So the Titans need to be in that 250-ish range because they are going to have to pay the draft class and everything else. So here we go. First move. Number 1, release linebacker Harold Landry III. So that is the first move that I would have made. That is what the Titans did. You saved $17.5 million, and you are now to $63.2 million. That's not the only cut, though. Arden Key, released, saved $7 million, and now you're at $65.6 million on the cap. Amani Hooker, released, saving $8.64 million, and now you've got $74.2 million in cap space. And we're going to make another addition to this. And this was a tough one. I thought long and hard about this, but I decided I'm releasing Kenneth Murray Jr. as well, saving $7.5 million in cash, and it's only a 2.5 dead cap anyway, so who cares? There's no guaranteed money there. So Landry, Key, Hooker, Kenneth Murray, which now takes us to our needs. Quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, tackle, guard, backup interior offensive lineman, backup quarterback, inside backer, outside backer, safety, long snapper, kicker, punter. Boy, that's a long list. So first off, I'm re-signing Morgan Cox for 1 year, the long snapper, at the veteran minimum $1.2 million. I'm also going to re-sign Nick Folk. Mini leg Ian returns for 1 year, $4 million. So he gets a $250,000 raise, and I give him $4 million.
Bring him back.
Daniel Brunskill. I am re-signing 1 year, $2.6 million. I don't think he can do better on the free agent market. I think he would take it. So I'm re-signing Daniel Brunskill. And I'm doing that because who knows when Lloyd Cushenberry is going to be ready to return. Plus, you know, if he's got to start at guard, he can start at guard. If he's got to start at center, he can start at center. Brunskill's kind of a Swiss Army knife offensive lineman. He's dependable. He's a tough guy. He causes no problems. $2.6 million. I'm fine there. So right now I have $66.4 million in cap space and a boatload of money in cash. First trade we make. Trade quarterback Will Levis plus pick number 102 in the 4th round to Tampa Bay for pick number 84 in the 3rd round. So I'm jumping up, I believe, 18 spots in order to move up to pick 84, but I am now back in the 3rd round, back in the top 100. Tampa Bay gets Levis to be their backup quarterback to Baker Mayfield, and I'm giving them, again, that 4th, but I still have the other 4th that I got from Seattle for the Ernest Jones trade. So that's more housekeeping. I'm getting rid of Levis. There's actually more dead money on the cap if you care about those things, which I do not. There is more dead money to get rid of Levis, but you're saving a little bit of cash. But more importantly, you're just moving on. And again, you're now back in the 3rd round. So you've got a 1st rounder, 2nd rounder, 3rd rounder, and 1/4, as opposed to 1st round, 2nd round, and 2/4. I'm allowing Nick Westbrook-Akine, Mason Rudolph, Nick Vannett, Quandre Diggs, Tyler Boyd, Jerome Baker, Dylan Radins, Jack Gibbons, Julius Chestnut, and others to exit the team as free agents. On you go. The first guy I'm not, Hunter Ryan Stonehouse, I will tender with a right of first refusal, RFA tender, that is $3.6 million, which might be the value of Stonehouse. Like I might be fine bringing in some undrafted free agent, letting 3 of those guys compete for it, as opposed to paying Stonehouse 3.6, but screw it. Let's just be done with it. Stonehouse 3.6. All right, Ian, are you ready to get to the free agents?
Bring it on.
Number 1, and these are day 1 moves. Number 1, signed quarterback Sam Darnold from Minnesota.
Surprise,
4 years,
surprise.
$168 million with $82 million guaranteed. That takes us, remember, we're at $150 million in cash. That now takes us to $206 million in cash. We'll get there very quickly, spending $50 million on Sam Darnold, but only an $18 million cap hit because of the way we finagle it. So, $20 million, by the way, of 2027's salary guarantees for Darnold on the 5th day of the 2nd league year. So it's really a 3-year deal, but it's really a 3-year deal, even though it says 4. But if it's a train wreck with Darnold, then you can get out of it after 2. So again, signed quarterback Sam Darnold, number 1. Now I'm done at quarterback. You guys try your Scarbinis out there and everything. I'm done. Number 2, day 1 free agent. Signed linebacker Nick Bolton from Kansas City for 4 years and $52 million. And I really personally am not all that in on Nick Bolton, but I did cut Kenneth Murray and I did cut Amani Hooker.
You're good with spending all that money on a linebacker, huh?
Well, here's why. I need veteran leaders. Kenneth Murray was a team captain last year, but he can't even wear the green dot. I need a green dot inside backer who's consistent and plays, and that's Bull. And not only that, I feel like Borgonzi is going to want to go after Bull. Maybe this was I thought about this because Paul says they're not going to go after Darnold. So I had thought about, okay, well, should I not go after Darnold since they're not going to go after Darnold? And then I was like, screw it. This is my free agency plan. I'm going after Darnold. At the same time, Nick Bolton seems more like the general manager's from Kansas City and he'll want a Kansas City guy in there. So that was the reason why I got rid of Murray, was because I'm getting rid of Hooker. And Murray is inconsistent anyways, and he's not a green dot guy. So give me the green dot inside backer. I'll pay for it. Get the guy from the Chiefs. Number 3, signed Morgan Moses, tackle from the New York Jets for 3 years and $18 million, $10 million guaranteed. So that's $6 million a year. You're guaranteeing the first year and a half. Again, if it's bad, I would say you can get out of it, but I wouldn't expect it to. And then after the 2nd year, you can easily get out of that. Number 4, signing guard Dalton Reisner from Minnesota. I picked Reisner because he has had a little bit of an injury history, but I picked him because he's a consistent player, has played in similar systems in Denver, and I want somebody that Sam Darnold knows. Like, I want somebody that Sam Darnold has been with before. He's been with Bo Hardigree in New York, but I want somebody on the team, in the meeting rooms, that knows the way Sam wants to do things. Dalton Reisner from Minnesota, 1 year, $5 million, fully guaranteed. He takes over for Dylan Radins at right guard. And then we move from day one to week one. So after the first couple days, guys start to get very nervous. And when these guys start to get nervous, they start to all of a sudden say, okay, maybe I'll take a little less. Week one free agent, tight end, Evan Ingram from Jacksonville, 2 years, $15 million, $7 million guaranteed. If he says no, then I go with Mike Gesicki from Cincinnati, but I'll go with Evan Ingram. I saw that release and I was like, you know what? I don't know if he can block it all, but I've always liked Evan Ingram. And unlike Chig, he's a starting tight end. So Evan Ingram in the mix. The second one, week one free agent, quarterback Brandon Allen, San Francisco. He will be the backup to Sam Darnold for 1 year, $2.5 million. Brandon Allen was the backup to Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. So this connects Brian Callahan with somebody that he knows, who knows how Callahan likes to do business. And Brandon Allen will be under no assumption that, hey, you're going to try to take this job from Sam. You are Sam Darnold's caddy. And I think that they both will speak the same language because Allen was in San Francisco last year and Darnold was in San Francisco 2 years ago. So I'm going to make the move of bringing in Brandon Allen. I've already traded away Levis. Brandon Allen backs up Sam Darnold. Safeties, Richie Grant and Von Bell. Richie Grant from the Atlanta Falcons, 1 year, $5 million. That replaces Amani Hooker. Safety Von Bell, Cincinnati, 1 year, veteran minimum, $1.2 million. Von Bell's old. Again, Cincinnati guy, but now I've got two safeties. I'll probably draft a safety. I can bring in a Mike Brown. You know, I don't safety, screw it. Those two guys are my safeties. And so I'm done there. Then there are two questionable. I'm signing wide receiver Diami Brown from Washington for the veteran minimum of $1.2 million. I don't know what Diami Brown's market's going to be. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to set aside about $5 million. There's about 30 veteran free agents at wide receiver. Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, Keenan Allen, Chris Godwin, all these guys. Now, some of these guys are going to have massive markets. Godwin's going to have a huge market. T. Higgins isn't going to get to the market. But I'm talking about kind of the older veteran guys that 4 years ago we'd say, oh my God, could you imagine getting Cooper Kupp in here to pair with A.J. Brown? I think I wait a while and then try to go get one of those guys. But for right now, we'll go with Diami Brown in Washington, who I thought had a nice little resurgence. Their trade for Deebo Samuel tells me they're out of bringing him back. I'll take him for the veteran minimum, $1.2 million. And this is where I have a hard time getting a value. I'm going to sign Hassan Reddick. I know Hassan Reddick did a lot of stupid things this past year between the Eagles and the Jets. And I know that Tory Dandy at CAA has dumped Hassan Reddick. And so I truly feel like when it comes to Hassan Reddick, he'll realize, hey, this is truly a 1 year prove it deal. 1 year, $8 million for Hassan Reddick. That now puts me at $255 million, and I have a target of $280 million. And now I will wait until the draft and sign a veteran edge rusher for close to vet minimum and a veteran inside backer for close to vet minimum. So I'll enter the draft, or at least the draft area, with a hole at edge rusher. And again, it's a deep edge rushing draft and inside backer. And we will sign veterans that can start if they have to start before the draft. So we don't have to draft anybody. And that's a free agent plan. Goodbye, Landry, Key, Hooker, and Murray. Hello, Darnold, Morgan Moses, Dalton Reisner, Hassan Reddick, Evan Ingram, Brandon Allen, Richie Grant, Von Bell, Diami Brown, and Nick Bolton. 615-737-1025 here on the program. We'll get your reaction to that. Plus, I do hear they're out on Darnold. Ian, you've heard the cut. There is a name out there that if you thought Poo-Poo Johnson was bad, how are Titan fans going to feel about this?
Are you asking me? Not good.
They're not going to like it. We'll do it next. Stillman Company, 105 the game.
Titans aren't going to be players for Sam Darnold. If he was a shorter term, cheaper option, sure. But as long as he's going to be a long-term, high-dollar commitment for somebody, it's not going to be them.
Let's just lay it out the way we laid it out for Titans fans. So you have a choice, and it's just all things being. Here's your choice. Your quarterback for the next few years is Sam Darnold or it's Cam Ward. You're choosing Cam Ward.
No, I'm choosing neither.
Okay, so you just want a crappy quarterback.
I don't want a crappy quarterback.
Who's your quarterback?
It's some stopgap. It's a combination of Levis and
oh my god
and Mac Jones.
This is really inspiring.
Jameis Winston. I'm not here to inspire. I'm here to tell you what's going to happen.
I want you to run a team.
No, be a cheerleader. I want Titans.com.
Oh God, could you two just shut up for 5 seconds? Again, Paul's giving you information. He's saying they're out on Sam Darnold. And when I heard that Wednesday morning, I'd say, Ian, it's been a terrible 3 days for me as a Titans and Preds fan.
We've seen better days.
When I heard that in the car Wednesday morning, I thought, oh, no, 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 no. And a bunch of you were happy because you were like, Jared, you're not going to get Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold sucks. He sucked with the Jets, Jared. He had one good year. He sucked. He sucked in the playoffs. Forget the fact that Tua sucked in his one playoff game. Forget the fact that Jared Goff sucked in his playoff game. Forget the fact that Jordan Love threw 3 interceptions and had a quarterback rating of 40 in his playoff game this year. Sam Darnold sucks. And I will tell you, it's been painful. So, on NFL Live, Jeremy Fowler, who usually does, Ian, have some nuggets on the Titans. Shockingly, I don't know who he talks to, but Fowler has some nuggets on the Titans. Dropped this nugget. If you thought Darnold sucked on the Jets, Jeremy Fowler dropped this nugget just now on ESPN.
What are you hearing about the plans for quarterback there for the Titans?
Yeah, Laura, so I do expect the Tennessee Titans to snag a veteran quarterback in this market. They're gauging that interest right now over the weekend, planning for free agency. I don't sense that it will be that top of market Sam Darnold type player. Could be a mid-tier type option. Maybe even like a Zach Wilson type player who's been a backup, who's still got some upside they could bring in. Because most people around the league still do expect that Miami quarterback Cam Ward will be firmly on Tennessee's radar and could be the pick at number 1. If you do that, they just need somebody to hold down the fort for a year. They don't feel like they're in contention playoff style right now. They got a year or two to build this thing.
Okay, Zach Wilson. All right, let me say this. The way he just presented that was as if the Titans were going to use the first pick on Cam Ward and have Zach Wilson be the backup. Now, I don't want Zach Wilson to be the backup if Cam Ward is the quarterback. If Cam Ward is the quarterback, I want a veteran backup quarterback. And Zach Wilson's been in the league for 4 years. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a true backup. Like a guy who, hey man, this guy, he was brought into this league as a backup, and he will always be a backup, and he will Tyrod Taylor. Now I can live with Daniel Jones. If they sign Daniel Jones on Monday, it tells me they're going to draft Cam Ward. And again, while I wouldn't draft Cam Ward number 1 overall, I'd go with Sam Darnold. I understand the idea of, okay, they're going to go with Cam Ward, and because they're going to go with Cam Ward, they're going to go cheap at the backup. It might be a bridgy kind of guy, so he can start if they don't think Ward's ready, or he can sit there and caddy for Ward if they give Ward the ball on it. That's fine. That's real thinking. But all the trade chatter as far as the Titans are concerned make it sound like they're really not that interested in Cam Ward. I mean, either you love a quarterback or you don't love a quarterback. You don't just reluctantly take a quarterback because why not? You don't do that. And that takes me back to Paul again on Wednesday saying that if the Giants want to get to number 1 to take Cam Ward, then they need to offer up their first rounder in next year's draft. Well, if you love Cam Ward, it'll cost you a hell of a lot more than a first rounder in next year's draft in order to make the move. Again, New England, and this isn't conjecture. This isn't something that we're thinking about where it's well, it was reported that New York called New England. No, we saw it. It was on camera, and we all saw it. And on camera, New York, the Giants, called New England and asked for number 3 to draft Drake May, and they were willing to trade a first rounder in next year's draft, and New England said no. If you love the quarterback, you do not trade him pretty much no matter what. But definitely not for an extra first rounder. Like, one of the worst all-time trades in the history of the NFL is the John Elway trade from the Baltimore Colts to the Denver Broncos. And that's what they got. Like that's what they got. And Ernie, of course, he resigned because he was so against that trade. If you wanted to get John Elway, you had to give 4 first-round draft choices, including 2 in the top 10, I believe is what, of course, he asked for. If you love the quarterback. So I'm fine with them loving Cam Ward and picking Cam Ward and going to the podium and taking Cam Ward and having some Scarbini backup. What I am not okay with is them not signing Sam Darnold, them signing Zach Wilson, them signing Jameis Winston, them signing Mac Jones, and then them trading the pick. And now we're sitting here watching Zach Wilson play quarterback. You guys thought Sam Darnold sucked with the Jets. What do you think about Zach Wilson? So that's the latest thing. Paul threw out Mac Jones and Jameis Winston, and now Jeremy Fowler's throwing out, Mac Jones and Jameis Winston, and now Jeremy Fowler's throwing out Zach Wilson. Holy crap. 615-737-1025. Plus, I heard another thing about Sam Darnold's market. I'm starting to believe, maybe I'm talking myself into this, I'm starting to believe we're all getting lied to. We'll get to it next. Stillman and Company, 1025 The Game.
Obviously, the Vikings basically said they would like Sam Darnold back. It's going to be less than the franchise tag, but still they would like him back at a manageable number. They can build the team around him. But it's not unprecedented, but there's not a lot of precedent because they'd like to bring back a starter who is a free agent, who, as they've said, has earned the right to be a free agent. But if he comes back, J.J. McCarthy, who they really like, is right there. So if Darnold holds him off during training camp, they'll have to split the reps. They'll go into the season, and everyone will know if one quarterback falters, whoever wins, the other one is right there. That is a tough situation for both of these guys. Darnold is an absolute pro and handled it incredibly last year, having really a career year. But J.J. McCarthy wasn't out there last year. The Vikings are going to try to do the absolute best they can with two quarterbacks. They really, really like kind of hold off on putting J.J. out there just this 1 year. They can do it. They are very, very good. There's a little bit of a challenge here.
There you go. That was Ian Rappaport talking about Minnesota wants to bring back Sam Darnold, and they want to build a team around Sam Darnold. But they didn't franchise tag Sam Darnold. Well, yeah, but they want JJ there, and so if it doesn't work, then they can go from JJ to Sam to. Look, not everybody agrees with me all the time. That goes against everything that I know about the NFL. Bill Polian, and I wish I had thought about this earlier today, and I had the cut for you, but I had a cut from this offseason where Bill Polian was talking about the Cowboys on NFL radio, and Bill Polian said that the rule of thumb is if a guy gets to free agency, you're either going to lose him or you're going to tag him. That's it. You're either going to lose him or you're going to tag him, and there's no in between. And they decided not to tag him. If you want to build a team around a quarterback, you do not let that quarterback go, period. They've let him go. There's no team that's like, we want to build this around this quarterback, but only for this much money. Even Cincinnati, the cheap-ass Bengals that can't get out of their own way, even Cincinnati, they're like, yeah, we're going to give Joe Burrow the money. Like, we have to do it. Which, again, takes me back to how this is all lying season. This is all narrative season. This is all TV season. This is all. And the more I'm starting to hear that the Titans are out on Sam Darnold, Ian, makes me think the Titans are really in on Sam Darnold.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really think
checkers.
there's a chance on Monday. I think there's a chance on Monday that the Titans have traded the number 1 pick to the Giants, and that the Titans are picking at 3, and that the Titans are signing Sam Darnold to a $36.5 million a year contract.
You think they just do it all at once, the trade and the signing?
I think they have to. Because I don't think you can I think the Titans, I don't think it's an accident that Cam Ward is visiting the team today. Like, I think that's all. And I told somebody, because the Titans brought in or scheduled, and I think Travis Hunter wasn't able to come in, but they brought in on the top 30 visits. The only 4 visits they've used before free agency opens are Abdul Carter, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, and Travis Hunter. Like, they went to the combine, and those were the only 4 visits they were doing. And I'm convinced that's all for show. Now, look, they're probably evaluating Ward and wanting to, check under every nook and cranny and whatever, dot every I, cross every T, whatever you want to say. They probably were doing that no matter what, because you want to make sure that you know what you're passing on if you're passing. But they're definitely doing it for show, because they're not taking Shedeur Sanders with the number 1 pick. At least I don't think they're taking Shedeur Sanders with the number 1 pick. And so I think that's a message to everybody, which is we're serious about Cam Ward. We're serious about quarterback, because we're not going to be interested in Sam Darnold. We're not going to be interested in Sam Darnold. We'd be interested in Jameis Winston or Mac Jones or Zach Wilson. I'm trying to think if there's any truly terrible quarterback that's out there that they haven't mentioned, because Daniel Jones, even though he sucks, he's not as terrible as those guys. They haven't mentioned him. They're out on Aaron Rodgers. We haven't heard about Russell Wilson. We haven't heard about Justin Fields. We haven't heard about anybody who, in theory, could actually be the starting quarterback of the Titans. We've heard about people who, again, it's like pulling teeth when you hear them mentioned as a potential quarterback for the Titans. Which makes me think that the Titans are lying to everybody. Just like when Ian Rappaport goes on television and he says, they want to build a team around Sam Darnold. Well, what do you mean? They want to build a team around Sam Darnold, then you tag him. I can understand drafting J.J. McCarthy 11 months ago and signing Sam Darnold and seeing Sam Darnold have the season he had and sitting in the meeting room and saying to yourself, you know what? That's our franchise quarterback. We love JJ, but Sam's our guy. Well, if that's the case, you do not let him get to free agency, period. But they did. So they don't love him that much. So when he says, hey, let's build around Sam Darnold, that's bullcrap. There's no way that's true. And if Minnesota's going to just brazenly lie to Ian Rappaport like that, Ian Rappaport just takes it and runs with it, then that makes me think that the Titans are probably lying to everybody else because, again, I know that the top 30 visits before free agency were all for show, or else they wouldn't have invited Shedeur Sanders. Again, Zach Wilson. So I'm thinking they're in on Sam Darnold, and they just don't want anyone to know. And I keep going back to the fact that, again, everybody, me, Gentry Estes, Joe Rexroad, Ian, Caroline, Tim Hasselbeck, Trevor Maddich, everybody has said, like, yeah, they need to be in on Sam Darnold. This was Charles Davis yesterday on Sirius XM NFL Radio. Ian, I think we would agree Charles knows ball, even though sometimes I think he's a little too over the top with his homerism on the Titans TV broadcast for the preseason.
Good latest mock draft.
Well, yeah, that's ridiculous. Charles knows ball. And here's what Charles said about the Titans quarterback situation.
You don't just throw your options out until you have options in hand. That's the key. So that's why when we start talking about Aaron Rodgers, Sam Darnold, all these other players, we better make sure you talk about Tennessee because they are not out of that game at all. Like anyone who thinks they are, I'd be shocked, right? Like if Mike Margone could buzz my phone right now and say, hey, dude, we're not in that game. I just topple over and you do the rest of the show.
I mean, Charles is saying, like, I'd be shocked if you said they weren't in on Rodgers and they weren't in on Darnold. But Paul's reporting, like, they're not in on Darnold, they're not in on Rodgers. So Tim Hasselbeck, Trevor Maddich, Jared Stillman, Joe Rexroad, Gentry Estes, Ian Safar, Caroline Fenton, Charles Davis, everybody's like, this is common freaking sense. It's lying season. I think they're in. I think they're in on Sam Darnold. All right, all of that's on the table for your phones. 615-737-1025. The Darnold, the offseason plan, the quarterbacks, Cam Ward's day, all on the table. Plus, the Barry Trotz interview earlier, the Preds' inactivity at the deadline, and the Predators have actually made a move. We will get to that coming up next. Stillman and Company, right here on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. It's 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
We've got to just continue to peel off pieces, add some of our prospects, draft well. Hopefully, I watched this last night. Here's a team that was in Seattle, which was a team that was on the upsurge, I guess. And all of a sudden, they're only a few points ahead of us. So they're having a season that they probably didn't expect right now, and they peeled some pieces off. So all these teams are doing that. We're just in different parts of our evolution. So, anytime someone flips a pick on you and gets a higher pick, good for them. We got the player we wanted. So I'm not concerned about that.
That was Barry Trotz earlier today on the program. Apparently, the Predators had made a trade that he was not at liberty to discuss because I guess it had to happen before the deadline, but the Predators shipped off Mark Jankowski to Carolina for a 2026 fifth. Whatever. So add that to the list. And apparently, Ian, it sounds like we have some breaking news from the YouTube chat.
Oh, yeah. YouTube chat is all over the Sam Darnold news.
Okay. The distinguished gentleman who again, we used to wonder if he was Rand Carthon's burner because he was so defensive of Rand Carthon over the years. We obviously know he's not Rand's burner, but he says that he has credible sourcing inside the Titans that says they're very much in on Sam Darnold. And as much as he's crapped on Sam Darnold,
Yes.
he now has to get behind Sam
It
Darnold.
flip-flopped in a matter of a few minutes from lying season to just got word that the Titans are in on Darnold from a very credible source, and he is not happy about it.
I just have to say this. The distinguished gentleman said all year this was a planned tank for the Titans, and they were all in lockstep, and Rand wasn't getting fired. So I have a hard time. I would love to believe this. I would love to believe it, but I can't. I just think, again, it's common sense. They'll be in on Darnold. There's one quarterback. They need a quarterback, period. And then they trade the pick and build around the quarterback with the picks. Let's go to your phones. Ryan's up next on the Predators in the trade deadline. Thank you for calling. Ryan, you go ahead.
Thanks, Stillman. I think Josh is right. You look at teams that have, like Dallas, Carolina, Florida, Tampa, they've had to build their core. Nashville is trying to piece together their core because it has fallen apart year over year by not being replenished. But Josh is right on that. And the other thing I wanted to say is, you talked about the scouting reports. Those scouting reports, they're mainly based off the draft class those players are taken out of. So you look at the draft class that you're talking about Andrew Gibson was taken out of, you got to look at the 2023 draft class. It was a loaded draft class. So, yeah, his stats look bad on the scouting reports because the scouts look at the players taken ahead of him going, well, Calvin Ritchie, like, well, look what he could do, look what he's done, look at all this. But that's different. It's a different sky. It's based on the draft class the scouting reports on. You go look at this draft class scouting reports, it sucks. If you go look at majority of the picks that have been traded through this entire trade deadline, there's not many for this draft class. It is all 2026, 2027. No GMs want draft picks for this draft class unless you are in a complete teardown and want to rebuild.
So I actually have heard something like that outside of the top picks, which the Predators may have. Ryan, thank you for the call about this being kind of a weaker draft class. Somebody said to me on the Pittsburgh trade front, which again, when I was driving today and I wasn't driving, but I was in the car. When I was in the car today and I saw the news that Pittsburgh had flipped Luke Schenn for a second, my jaw hit the floor. And I was talking to somebody today after the Trotz interview that said to me, this Bunting, he's fine. But they expect him to basically take Gus Nyquist's spot. And then if the Predators aren't competing at the deadline next year, they can flip him the same way they flipped Gus Nyquist. For whatever that's worth. Again, I don't know how much I buy into that. But I will say this. I still am worried, though, about where the prospects rank when Trotz is saying, hey, all these prospects are going to come in here. Now, Adam Vinkin sent out a tweet in which he said, Barry Trotz said that the Predators need to be patient. And then Trotz said, Stamkos 35, Yossi 34, Marchessault 34, O'Reilly 34, Shea 30, Forsberg 30, Saros 29. There is not a whole lot of time for patience, Adam says. I don't think Adam heard what Trotz was saying. And I'm not saying that Trotz is right to tell the fans to be patient. I think Trotz is saying, like, he's more worried about kind of the next generation, of which Evangelista's probably a part of, Svechkov's probably a part of, Mullendijk, Wood, Edstrom, Surin, Stiga, Hagens, fingers crossed. Although if they play like they played last night, it won't be Hagens. Hagens, Misa, the two draft guys that are supposed to be great. I think that's what he's talking about in terms of being patient. It's like I talked about, if the Rams had moved off Stafford, it would have been because they would have looked at their last generation as Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Andrew Wentworth, Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, and they're looking at their next generation of Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, Puka Nakua, Kyron Williams. And that's why it would have made sense to go from Stafford to Darnold, just because of the ages. I think Trotz is talking about our core. He's not talking about O'Reilly and Forsberg and Marchessault and those guys. That was, hey, let's try to win some games at the NHL level with these guys while we really worry about those guys right there. And if you had flip-flopped these two seasons, and I'm not defending the Predators with what I'm saying, I'm just putting in context. If you had flip-flopped these two seasons, so instead of making the playoffs last year, this year they were down towards the bottom, competing for the worst pick. Ian, do you think anybody would have cared?
If what now?
If the Predators were having this season last year.
No, yeah, they probably would have gotten away with a little bit more grace from the fans if this were, a little bit of a flip-flop season. Yeah.
And so I think, again, when Trotz is talking about, hey, fans, be patient on the core, he's talking about Wood and Surin and Stiga and Mullendijk and Gibson and those guys. Now, the way I look at it is, for every 6 of those guys, 1 or 2 might pop. But if you got 20 of them, then you can build out an NHL team. Joey from Bellevue says, right now, the Cam Ward conversation is the same conversation we had 2 years ago. If the Titans really loved Will Levis and truly thought he was their guy, they would have picked him with the 11th pick instead of the guard. I agree with you. If Ward was their guy, they would be putting their phones on Do Not Disturb. That we will see. One texter says, Darnold's a free agent. So what do the Vikings get for lying about wanting to build around Sam Darnold? I don't know. I just know that it's a lie. I just know that it's not the truth. Because if they wanted to build their football team around Sam Darnold, then they would have tagged him, because they would not let him get away. Again, Bill Polian said this. And I do have to keep in mind that with O'Connell and Adolfo-Mensah, they're relatively inexperienced. This is their 3rd season, or entering their 4th. They've had a little bit of success. Mike Florio's a big Vikings fan at Pro Football Talk. He keeps pointing out that there's kind of some ambiguity as to who's calling the shots as far as the Vikings are concerned. Gee, sounds familiar. But I think there's like a little bit of this like Vrabelin of like, oh, we got to win the deal and I can do it. And I think, again, like, I'm used to Floyd and the older guys that are more experienced, that are kind of more like, yeah, if you let him get to free agency, he's gone. Or, yeah, if you don't have a quarterback, like, you don't know the. And I think there may be some of that. Like, maybe the Vikings think they can bring him back. But, again, Bill Polian says, if you don't tag him and he gets to free agency, you're done. He's gone. Period. He said, with Peyton, I never had to worry about it. He said, every year Peyton Manning didn't have a contract, I had to tell every free agent, like, you're getting to free agency, because at the end of the year, I'm going to tag Peyton if I don't get a deal done. And Tom Condon knew it too. 615-737-1025. Chad Withrow from Outkick joins us next on the program on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. It's Stillman & Company, 1025-1063, The Game. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063, The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. It is a Fireball Hot Take Friday, and we are presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. Free agency opens. By the next time we're on the air, 2 o'clock on Monday, we will already know, to a certain extent, what moves are being made in the NFL. I guess they've changed it from the legal tampering period to the legal negotiating period. And here's what we've been told so far. We've been told so far when it comes to the Titans quarterback situation not to be interested in Sam Darnold or Aaron Rodgers or any of those guys. But as Paul said, Jameis Winston, Mac Jones, and as Jeremy Fowler said today, Zach Wilson. The Titans are also hosting Cam Ward today for his top 30 visit. Abdul Carter was in yesterday. Shedeur Sanders will be in Monday. They tried to get Travis Hunter in this week. Titans making it very clear that, hey, we're bringing in the top 4 guys or whatever it may end up being. With that, Chad Withrow joins us from Outkick. So, Chad, let's start right here. I believe it's as simple as the Titans are going to go with Sam Darnold at quarterback or Cam Ward. It has to be one or the other. There is no other option. And yet it seems as if reportedly they're not interested in Darnold. And reportedly they're looking to trade the pick for Cam Ward. So what do you make of it?
Well, I make of it, if that's the case, that they just want to lose a lot next year too, and likely get Brian Callahan fired, and then get a bunch of draft picks in return for trading back and doing these things, and then have another hot draft pick on top of possibly another second number 1 pick next year and maybe something else, and that they're just in full-on rebuild mode, and they're not interested in competing next year at all, if that's the route they go. I mean, if this is a Mac Jones, Jameis Winston level signing, Zach Wilson, then it just signifies to me that the Titans aren't interested in winning at all. That's what it tells me.
So I said this to TD yesterday, and I believe that if the Titans were to do that, if they were to roll with Zach Wilson at quarterback next year, Daniel Jones at quarterback next year, that the fans would then give Brian Callahan a pass and would take it out on Brinker and Borgonzi and blame them. Because to your point, it does look like they're just setting Callahan up to fail. It does look like they're punting on 2025. And as a fan, Chad, I'm not interested in punting on 2025. I've seen teams turn it around in the NFL. I saw John Robinson take this job and win 9 games that first year. I'm not interested in punting on next season. And I don't think the Titans, I don't think things will go well for them if that's what they try to do. What do you think?
Yeah, it's all about what Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi are telling Amy Adams Strunk in all of this about their ability to turn it around quickly or not. And it doesn't matter what the fans think or who they blame. I mean, they can blame the front office and not Brian Callahan all they want. What matters is what Amy Adams Strunk thinks. And we've seen this bounce from trusting one person to then leapfrogging and trusting the next. And then she's going to listen to that person to possibly fire the person before them that she trusted before she trusted the new person. So it's just going to go back and forth in that route until the Titans get good again, which they're not right now. So, my question to you would be, let's just say that they do everything well this offseason. They draft a good player. It's not a quarterback, but they draft a really good player with whatever pick they have, whether they trade back or draft number 1 overall. They do a good job in free agency. They have more hits than misses. And let's say they sign Sam Darnold, and he's the quarterback. What's the ceiling of the Titans? I know it's impossible to say because we haven't gone through free agency, but Sam Darnold at quarterback, what's the ceiling? I'm saying if they do everything well, the ceiling is probably just outside of the playoffs, right? Like an 8-9 type season, maybe 9-8, but probably
so I was going to say 10 wins.
Make the playoffs.
I was going to say 10 wins is, yeah, because I kind of just scribbled this down yesterday. I was talking to TD about this during a break. How many games last year? And I know it's hard to remember each game, but they win the Chicago and the Jets games if Sam Darnold is the quarterback instead of Will Levis, because Will Levis gave those games to each of those two teams. They lost a game by 3 points at home to Indianapolis, in which Will Levis threw for 95 yards. I have to believe that they win that game with Sam Darnold. Jacksonville, they lost to Mac Jones twice. I have to believe they win those 2 games if Sam Darnold is the quarterback. So that in and of itself is 6 games. and they won 3 last. So that puts them at, you see what I'm saying? Like, competent quarterback play does go a long way. And then on top
that's
of it,
why
like,
I say 8 or 9. We're in the same range right now, between 8 and 10 wins, I think.
Yeah. I don't think that's bad.
No, it's not bad. It's just here's what I'm trying to convey. I think it's whatever Mike Borgonzi and Chad Brinker are telling Amy Adams Strunk about their plan. If their plan includes, hey, we're going to be respectable immediately, we've done this before, I've done it before, we can turn it around and become a 500 type ball club or a little bit better a year from now, and then the year after that we could be competing for the division championship, then if that's the plan, then you bring in, Sam Darnold or Aaron Rodgers or whoever you think can get you to that can give you some competent quarterback play. Or you're saying we think Cam Ward is the real deal and he's going to improve us right away and he's our quarterback. If you're punting on those options and you're drafting Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter and you're going with one of the guys we said in the beginning, Mac Jones, Jameis Winston, Zach Wilson, then I think what the plan is, let's bottom out again. Let's probably trade that first overall pick, get a first-round pick next year, have 2 top 10 picks a year from now, and then by year 2 of this thing, because I'm really counting this year as year 1, given Mike Borgonzi as the new GM, by year 2 of this thing, then we're going to be in the market for one of these quarterbacks, and we're going to really get things going in the right direction.
Boy, I think that's risky to do with Amy Adams Strunk. Like Arizona did that a couple of years ago. Kyler had torn his ACL. They had a new GM. They had a new coach. And they pretty much tanked, the 2023 season. And they got away with it. But I don't know if I'd tank the season with Amy as the owner. Because
yes, I agree with you. I think they've been a little bit arrogant at times with their own fan base and with, not valuing what fans think enough. I do think that's been a problem with the Titans. But I will say, let's just say that's the plan, okay? And you're essentially punting on this next year. Well, this next year is the last one in this Nissan Stadium. The following year, they open the new stadium. Now, if I come back that offseason and say, hey, the Titans have the number 2 and the number 4 picks in the NFL draft, and they're going to draft Arch Manning with the number 2 pick, or they're going to draft whatever the stud quarterback is that year. And let's say next year's quarterback crop is even better than this year's, and they already have Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter on the roster, and they have other second and third round picks from this past year, and they did well in free agency. You're stepping into a new stadium. Be there thinking in all this.
Could be. I do wonder this. There's 2 things, Paul. I believe, again, that if you're honestly trying to build the football team without tanking, it's either Sam Darnold or Cam Ward at quarterback. It is binary. Those are your 2 choices. And I would go with Darnold over Ward, but anybody's entitled to their opinion on that. When I heard Paul come out of the combine and say they're not going to be in on Darnold, but also say that he knows that in order for them to trade the number 1 overall pick, you have to give the Titans their first rounder next year. That tells me they don't love Cam Ward, because if you loved Cam Ward, it would cost a whole hell of a lot more to get you to move up to number 1. And honestly, if you really loved the quarterback, just like Washington last year, you wouldn't be answering the phone. Chicago was not answering the phone when it came to trading the Caleb Williams pick. I say this because if they don't love Cam Ward, I think they may be lying to everybody. I think they may be in on Darnold, and I think they may just be telling people they're out on Darnold to try to make it look like, no, we're serious. We might take Cam Ward to coerce the Giants or somebody else to get up to number 1. Is that just wishful thinking on my part? What do you make of it?
Yeah, well, look, everything needs to be hit with a caveat that that also may not be true about them wanting next year's number 1 or whatever. It also may be true, but a lot of these reports, I mean, who knows where they're coming from? They could be coming from a lie from one organization to try to up the price on a trade. The Titans could very well really like Cam Ward and be okay with drafting him number 1 overall, but open to the possibility of getting such a haul in return because the Giants love him even more that they're going to take a trade from the Giants. So I do think all of those things can be true. Now, what you don't want, Jared, is the Titans having to settle for Cam Ward or any appearance of that, right? Hey, we couldn't trade the number 1 overall pick. Giants wouldn't give us what we wanted with a first next year, so I guess we're going to take Cam Ward, the quarterback from Miami. You don't want that to be the appearance. You don't want that to be the thought process of the Titans front office going into this pick. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they know what they want to do right now, and a lot of out are smoke screens. There's not a lot of truth to it. Maybe the Titans are pushing one narrative they want pushed just because. It's hard to know exactly what to trust right now. But if we go with the scenario you laid out where they don't take Cam Ward or they don't bring in a Sam Darnold or an Aaron Rodgers, I would add him to the list. I mean, I think that the signal to the city is we're okay with not winning at all this year and getting 2 first-round picks next year and then really taking off from that point on with the new stadium.
I'm going to ask you the same question I've asked everybody this week, which is Cam Ward at number 1 or Sam Darnold in free agency, and you're able to trade the number 1 pick away. Which route would you rather go? Because again, this is about honestly trying to build the Titans and not tanking for this upcoming year. Or would you take an option number 3? Which of those 3 options would you take if you were the GM of the Titans?
I change week to week. I mean, right now I'd probably just go ahead and draft Cam Ward at number 1 and hope that, he's the guy and then build around him moving forward. But so much of it is if I could trade back and I could feel pretty good about, hey, I'm going to have 2 top 10 picks next year to play with, then I really like that option. But if we're bringing in Sam Darnold, and if Sam Darnold is as good as you say, then I don't think the Titans are going to get 2 top 10 picks next year because they're going to be a team that's going to either be 9-8 or 8-9 or 10-7 or whatever. And if that's the case, then you're not going to be picking as high with your pick, but you still may pick high with the pick that you got in return. So there's so many variables with that, which makes me think I would lead towards kind of giving the fans what they want to, which is someone to get excited about at the quarterback position and drafting Cam Ward number 1 overall.
Okay, the cartel has your family, and you have to decide who is going to be better 3 years from now, Cam Ward or Sam Darnold. Who would you pick?
Cam Ward. I mean, I think
Okay.
Sam Darnold's good. I don't think Sam Darnold's getting a lot better. I think Cam Ward's going to get a lot better as he plays.
Chad Withrow is presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. The hot seat awaits, and we got a lot to get into. We'll do it next. Stillman & Company, 102.5 The Game. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063. The game, it is a Fireball Hot Take Friday. Chad Withrow with us on the program. And okay, Chad Withrow with us on the program. Chad is presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee, your bank for small business. I'm kind of in a good mood right now, even though, man, it's been a rough couple of days. If the reporting is right and the Titans are out on Sam Darnold, it's been a rough couple of days. So let's give something away. Be caller 5 right now at 615-737-1025. You want a pair of tickets to see Stained and Breaking Benjamin at Bridgestone Arena on Sunday, April 27th. Chad Withrow is with us. Chad, do you have a thought, or do you want to go right to the hot seat?
Let's get right to the hot seat.
Number 1, what do you make of Shedeur Sanders' fall after the NFL Combine?
I don't believe it. I think it's all fake. I don't think he's falling at all. I think we fall into this trap all the time of thinking somebody's falling when they're not. I think Shedeur Sanders is going second overall to the Browns.
So I have a Shedeur Sanders hot take I was thinking about. I think the Titans may like Shedeur Sanders. I mean, I don't know why I think that.
Yeah. Did you see Charles Davis's mock draft, by the way?
I did see that.
He has 3 quarterbacks going 1, 2, and 3, and Jackson Dart going 3rd to the Giants. After the Titans take Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward goes to the Browns. And I've been thinking this for a while. I'm going to go ahead and assume this isn't one of your questions, so I'm not stealing any of your thunder with a hot seat. I did a mock draft today, a mock top 10 on our show. I've got Jackson Dart going 6th to the Raiders. I think he's going to be a surprise top 10 pick. I think 3 quarterbacks are going to the top 10, and Dart's going to be one of them.
I was thinking, because again, I think it's binary between Darnold and Ward. And all I hear about is how the Titans don't like Sanders. Like if the Titans, they want Ward, and they want to trade down, they want a first rounder next year, but they're not going to get Darnold. So think it's going to be Jameis Winston instead. And I'm like, the only way that they could have their cake and eat it too, and everybody be right, is for them to not sign Darnold, trade Ward, and pick Sanders. And that's if they like Sanders. I'd be shocked if that's the case, but I don't know. I guess then everyone would have been wrong saying that they don't like Sanders, but it seems like they've gone out of their way. I think the Titans might be one of the teams bad-mouthing Sanders because it's better for them.
Chess, right? If they pull that off, if they actually love Shedeur Sanders, and if what you're laying out there is correct, then I give Mike Morganzi full credit for playing chess with everyone on it, if that's in fact who they want. I don't know that, but if it is, then good for him.
Number 2, where does Sam Darnold end up?
Whew. That's a great question. I'm going to let you answer it first, and I'm going to go off your answer. Where do you think he's going to go?
Boy, the reporting says not the Titans, but then I think they may be lying, and I think it might be the Titans. Screw it, the Titans.
You think he's going to go to the Titans?
I do.
Gosh, I'm trying to think of teams, and there's so many teams that could use Sam Darnold right now that may not be in the range to get a quarterback. My mock draft's probably far-fetched with Jackson Dart, so I don't think it's going to be Titans. So I'll go with the Raiders as who ends up with Sam Darnold. And he'll be the starter there, and he'll be an immediate upgrade for that team.
Number 3, what are your thoughts on Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James yesterday during the Lakers game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with LeBron, if he thinks that he went too far on his son and they have some sort of relationship for confronting him for it. I mean, it is his kid, and they clearly have a prior relationship with each other. So, you talk trash about someone, then you face the consequences at times. So I kind of like it. I think it's a pretty good look for LeBron James, honestly.
I'm against it. You have orchestrated this entire thing to get Bronny into the NBA. Bronny does not belong in the NBA. Bronny sucks. Bronny could not start at UT. And Bronny is on the Lakers. And you're putting Bronny into these games. Fans are laughing. The Wizard fans, when Bronny's shooting meaningless free throws, are chanting MVP. And all Stephen A. said was, LeBron, as a father, stop embarrassing your son. To me, that's not personal. You put Bronny out there when you orchestrated this entire scheme to undermine the integrity of the meritocracy of sports. LeBron should have to reap what he sows. He put Bronny out there.
Well, I agree with you on that. I do not like anything LeBron James has done to orchestrate any of this. And more so, I don't like what the Lakers have done to empower LeBron James, who won one championship for them in a COVID year in 2020. I mean, it's not like the guy's Tom Brady with the Patriots. I don't know why they empower him to make a move like that and to orchestrate it where his son gets to be with the Lakers. I don't like any of that. I'm simply saying they clearly have a relationship, him and Stephen A. Smith. They know each other. If he said something that he feels went over the line and in saying that and wants to confront him face to face, I don't disapprove of how he did it with LeBron James doing that. Now, do I agree with how he's handled Bronny? Do I think that Bronny's – heck no. Bronny's not good enough to be in the NBA, and it's ridiculous that he's out there. But if they have a relationship and you're saying, hey, stop embarrassing your son, and you feel like that's crossing a line, then I'd prefer him go face-to-face with him and say something to him about it than, complain behind his back or do any of that. So I got no problem with the method in which he went after him. Also have no problem with what Stephen A. Smith said.
Do you think Bronny would start at Vanderbilt?
No, I don't. I think Tyler Nickel is better than Bronny James, and I'm not at all joking.
I mean, it's embarrassing. To me, it's embarrassing. Like, Adam Silver should have put a stop to this before it ever happened, but Adam Silver's got no freaking cojones when it comes to telling the players what to do.
He averaged 3 points a game on a bad USC team when he played in college, right? A bad USC team. He was way overrated because of who his dad is in the recruiting rankings going into USC. I mean, he needed 5 years in college, not one, to possibly get ready for the NBA. So, no, I don't think he starts. I don't think he starts for any top 10 seed in the NCAA tournament. Not a single one.
Number 4. What do you make of Stephen A. Smith's $100 million contract at ESPN?
Here's what I make of it. And this is not me criticizing your question about this, because everybody talks about it. Outkick talks about it all the time, writes about it all the time. It is in our rundown of our show all the time. It's talked about so much. I was surprised that he just signed this contract. I thought he signed it 5 years ago. We spend so much time talking about how much money Stephen A. Smith makes or deserves to make, or if he's overpaid, that we are in fact and in turn his agents. It's unbelievable. Like, I wish all of us could get this level of coverage of talking about how much money we deserve. And every other member of the media would talk about contracts and how much someone is worth and how much they should get and all of this. I think it's an absurd contract, but he's the one guy at ESPN worth it, because he is the one guy who moves the needle. He is the one guy that we're talking about right now. He is the one guy that if you put him on a show, whether that be their NBA tip-off show or his show or any other type of coverage, people are generally going to end up talking about him more than others. I'll also say this. His show has terrible ratings. Not many people watch those shows. Now, they get a big value out of him because they can put him anywhere, and he's in a spot in his life where he doesn't really have much else going on. So all he cares about is his job, and he'll do anything. And he wants to be on everything, and he wants to host podcasts, and he wants to work all the time. That's a huge benefit to someone like Stephen A. Smith. So I think for that reason, while I think the money is a lot, I also think that he's the one person at ESPN that's worth it.
I do wonder, though, when it comes to Stephen A. Smith, like, if Stephen A. Smith, if they had not been able to come to an agreement and Shannon Sharp had been the main host of that show, would ESPN have survived? And you know the answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, ESPN's going to survive with whoever they put in that spot, but ESPN survives because of what they pay in rights to actual games. You know, that's the meal ticket for ESPN, is we go to ESPN because they got all the sports. And if I want to watch any SEC game, basketball, football, whatever, I'm going to go to ESPN and watch it, and I might catch some of the shows before that, before my game comes on. So that's how they're ultimately going to always thrive, is because of their media rights. Now, they don't have baseball anymore, but it doesn't hurt them, because they went ahead and gave a low bid to Major League Baseball because they know national baseball doesn't really rate anywhere. So, look, if you're going to pay a personality at ESPN, Stephen A. Smith is the one to pay. But I think we could pick nits on just how much he's really worth to that company. And I think you're right. If you take him out of the fold and it's Shannon Sharp, they're not going to lose a lot in that. But I'll also say I don't think Shannon Sharp's going on their NBA coverage regularly. I don't think he's doing some things that Stephen A. Smith can do the way Stephen A. does it. So there's a big difference there, too.
Next one. What do you make of Jimmy Haslam refusing to meet with Myles Garrett?
It's a mess. It's a mess of a franchise. Not only that, like just think about how bad that contract is for everyone with Deshaun Watson. I mean, it's awful for any quarterback who ever wants to ask for guaranteed money again. That the guinea pig was Deshaun Watson coming off all the allegations with massage parlors and all of that, and then he gets hurt. He's terrible, and then he plays in 19 games over 2 or 3 years. He's got the lowest QBR in the league, and he hurts his Achilles twice. And now he's got this albatross of a contract, and they're going to have to bring in a quarterback, and he's going to still be there, but basically asked not to come to the facility. It's just such a miserable situation all the way around that I don't think Jimmy Haslam refusing to meet with Myles Garrett has anything to do with it. And here's the other thing I think. I don't think it's going to persuade Myles Garrett either way to try to come back. So I know the Browns are saying, we're not going to trade him. We'll see. These things have a way of working themselves out.
Last one for you. By the time that we talk next week, will Aaron Rodgers have a new home? And if so, where?
Whew. I'm going to say it's going to take a little while. I don't think he's going to be one of the first to sign. I think it's going to take longer than people think for him to find a spot. So I'm going to say no. I think Joey Bosa is another one that every fan knows the name Joey Bosa and knows about his career, but he's up there enough and he's got enough injury concern that it's going to take way longer than people think for him to sign somewhere. And it's going to be for fewer years and less money than what people think. I think both those guys fall into the same category. So no, he will not be signed next week.
Chad Withrow from Outkick is presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee, your bank for small business. Chad, great stuff as always. We'll talk next week.
All right, talk to you next week. Thanks, Jared.
Yep. So we had Barry Trotz's post-deadline. A lot of Preds fans very unhappy, including me, with what the Predators did at the deadline. And there is a quote that has come out from Barry Trotz's media availability with the local media that I think might be kind of eye-opening. Let's hit on it next. Stillman & Company, 102.5 The Game. what would you say to the fans today that they see other sellers at the deadline that are making trades and getting first round picks and, it's maybe some young players and things in exchange that are looking at the sellers getting richer today and are looking at the path of this team where right now the talk of a number one pick is more prevalent than the talk of the playoffs and kind of what the vision for the future and getting out of this and when that may happen. What would your message for those fans be?
Just, I just said, this is going to be a process. You got to stay patient with it. I mean, we're in the McDonald's area. You want us to be in first place, and then it doesn't go that way, and then you're everybody rips us for, not being there, or rips us for doing nothing in free agency, and then we do something in free agency and it doesn't work out, and we get ripped. So you got to ignore that. Some of the fans, I say, the plan hasn't changed. That's something that hasn't changed. We should have a better team than we had this year in terms of on the ice. That part is, we just never got it together, and we may get it together, but it's going to be too late. But it is a process that it hasn't changed, and we're just going to continue to be patient.
That was Barry Trotz earlier today on the program. That is the message to the fans. Be patient. There are no big holes today, no big first round picks here, no big, big move here. It just, again, Barry Trotz said, fans, be patient. Boy, it was a lot more fun last year when we were sitting there on the deadline day saying, man, look at all the picks they have and all the prospects and all the cap space, and they're making the playoffs, and they added a couple of guys and didn't pay much. It was a lot more fun last year. So Robbie Stanley sent me this. He asked Barry Trotz about, and he tweeted this out. He said, I asked Trotz about their style of play and how he thinks they need to play to maximize their veteran forwards moving forward. He talked about some adjustments they can make in different ways to play fast. Here was the quote. Quote, Bruno, this is Barry Trotz. Quote, Bruno did a lot of adjusting this year, which I give him a lot of credit. I handed him a tough hand at times in terms of players moving up and down, the number of players and all those things. I really gave him a tough hand, but he's growing as a coach all the time. I think he's a hell of a coach. I think he's a hell of a person. He's done everything in the hockey business. I guarantee you he'll take the summer, he'll come back, and he's more prepared for everything. That's what experience is. It just gives you more understanding of what's important and what's not. So I did not hear Barry Trotz say this. So I don't know what the context of what he was saying was. And I know of times when people say things in a press conference, you see it in print and it sounds a lot different than it does in the actual press conference. So I am leaving that as a possibility. And it sounds to me like Andrew Burnett's coming back as the coach.
Do you think so?
Well, doesn't it sound that way when Barry Trotz, again, I'm just reading the quote, but he says, I guarantee you he'll take the summer, he'll come back, and he's more prepared for everything?
I mean, you might start the season as the coach. Sure.
Well, I mean, look, I like Andrew Burnett, and I think Andrew Burnett is a good coach. I do. But I don't think you can bring Andrew Burnett back as the coach. I just think that his style does not work with the players they have. And this is the rock and the hard place that, again, I think it's a message that Trotz keeps trying to get through on the program that it might finally be getting through to my head, that it's not going to get through to most of yours because, again, this isn't how we view sports. And I understand. It's like the guy that called in earlier today and said, well, they haven't sent down the guys to the Milwaukee Admirals and they won't be able to play in the playoffs. And what's that mean? And I can just tell you right now, I don't give a rat's ass about the Milwaukee Admirals. But Barry Trotz keeps talking about the plan has not changed. And he talks about the prospects and all the young guys and everything else that they have. And when it comes to the young guys, he talks about Wood and Molendyke and Surin and Stiga and Reed Schaefer and Svechkov and Kemmel when we talk about them, we talk about Stamkos and Marchessault and Shea and Yossi, and I think he looks at the team that he's building as the first group. The guys that are 18 and 19 and David Edstrom, who's never played North American professional hockey. And whoever they pick second overall, third overall, Lord willing, That's what I think he's thinking about. And that the whole Stamkos, Marchessault, Brady Shea, that was just to bridge it over until those guys are ready to play. And I say that because I'm like, maybe he tries to keep Burnett on because he feels like Andrew Burnett is his guy for those young guys and not for the old guys. It's like, screw the old guys. They suck anyways. We're talking about the young guys. But I'd still be shocked if Andrew Burnett doesn't have to pay the price for this season. I just don't know how you can. Again, you're selling tickets to the Nashville Predators. You're not selling tickets to the 18-year-olds. Hey, 6 years from now, fans will be good. Buy tickets. I don't think you can do that. According to betonline.ag, for the odds of the next coach fired in the NHL, Mike Sullivan tops the list at plus 150. Andrew Burnett is second at plus 180. Patrick Waugh is 2-1 in New York. Laviolette 6-1 with the Rangers. Greg Conan, Lindy Ruff, Rick Tocchet, and Martin St. Louis round out the list. I'll put it to you like this. If it was up to me, because most people will say, well, who are you going to hire anyways? Who are you going to hire? If you fire Andrew Burnett, who are you going to hire? I always think that's a lame, weak argument. There's some guy who's an assistant coach somewhere that's the next Nick Saban. But I think there will be enough coaches fired after the playoffs that there will be a coach or two that you and I look at and say, go get him. And the guy I circle is Sullivan. Now, I know that they've taken all your players, but if Sullivan gets fired in Pittsburgh, and I think he will, it's too bad Sheldon Keefe's already got a job. But if Sullivan gets fired in Pittsburgh, I'd fire Burnett and I'd hire Sullivan to coach these guys. And I'd worry about the young guys when they get here or at least get to Milwaukee and are on the doorstep of getting here. But when Barry Trotz says that Andrew Burnett's going to take the summer, come back, and be better because of it, it makes me think he's going to be the coach next year. And me saying that I don't think Burnett can return as coach does not mean that I don't think he's a good coach, because I do think he's a good coach. And what he did last year, I thought was very good coaching. I just think given the circumstances, somebody has to pay the price for this season. And I think that somebody is the coach. 615-737-1025. If you love this show, I am telling you, one way or another, something that has been the hallmark of this program for however long it feels like it's been is coming to an end. And this will be the final segment of which you'll probably ever have to hear me talk about this in this regard. We'll do it next. Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game. I love Fireball whiskey. It's a Fireball Hot Take Friday. You know I love Fireball whiskey. It goes down so smooth and it tastes so great. There is no better way to start off your weekend and to ignite the night than to do so with ice-cold Fireball cinnamon whiskey. It's a real cinnamon whiskey. And again, it goes down so smooth and it tastes so great. So please ignite the night. Please do it responsibly and be 21 years or older to enjoy. That is Fireball Cinnamon.
Titans aren't going to be players for Sam Darnold. If he was a shorter term, cheaper option, sure. But as long as he's going to be a long-term, high-dollar commitment for somebody, it's not going to be them.
Let's just lay it out the way we laid it out for Titans fans. So you have a choice, and it's just all things being. Here's your choice. Your quarterback for the next few years is Sam Darnold or it's Cam Ward. You're choosing Cam Ward.
No, I'm choosing neither.
Okay, so you just want a crappy quarterback.
I don't want a crappy quarterback.
Who's your quarterback?
It's some stopgap. It's a combination of Levis and
oh my god
and Mac Jones.
This is really inspiring.
Jameis Winston. I'm not here to inspire. I'm here to tell you what's going to happen.
I want you to run a team.
No, be a cheerleader. I want Titans.com.
There you go. That was PK saying they are out on Sam Darnold. Well, if you're a proud listener of this show, then you know that I want Sam Darnold on the Titans. And you know all the reasons that I think Sam Darnold would be effective, whether it's the big-time throws, whether it's the 14 wins last year, the 18 wins over the last 3 years, including a year where he was a backup and didn't play. Titans have had 16 wins over the last 3 years. Well, who knows what's true and what's not? But Monday at 2 o'clock, when we start this program, the legal tampering period, which I think now the NFL refers to as the legal negotiating window, begins at noon, which means we should have a pretty good idea on Monday if Sam Darnold is going to be a Titan. We should have a pretty good idea if Sam Darnold, again, is going to be on the Titans or if Sam Darnold's not. And for about the last, 3 months, 4 months, 5, however long it's been, we've talked at length about the idea of how great it'd be to have Sam Darnold on the Tennessee Titans. Well, now we'll know one way or another on Monday. So if you stuck with this show, the distinguished gentleman, I'm talking to you, you've heard a lot of Sam Darnold talk. And one way or another, that talk is coming to an end. Either we'll be talking about the new starting quarterback of the Tennessee Titans, Sam Darnold, or we'll be talking about the reality that the Titans will have to draft Cam Ward with the number 1 pick. Or the mystery box, which should probably end up getting everybody fired. And we'll see on Monday. There's one other thing I'd like to address in the program. I have no idea what drama went down with the Titans Coliseum podcast, but apparently there's been some big drama. There were 3 guys on the show, RJ, Morocco, and Firestone. Unfortunately, I don't listen much to the Titans Coliseum podcast, but when I did listen, I thought it was good. Not good enough for me to listen to all the time, but good enough for me to be entertained when they were talking, about us. But I will say this. I did enjoy them. And I don't know what went down between them, but apparently they've broken up. And the Titans Coliseum podcast is no more. And I guess 2 of the guys are going to start their own thing, and the other guy is going to continue his own thing. And without knowing the details, I'll just say this. It's best for them to kiss and make up. It's best for them and their podcast endeavors and their fandom of the Titans, because the one thing I'll say about these guys is they care about the Titans. And I can appreciate that because I care about the Titans too. The only difference, I guess, is that I'm on the radio a little bit. But I value how much they love the Titans. So I just hope that you guys can let bygones be bygones. And for the sake of a Titan fan podcast, get the band back together. And that's for everybody else too. Got somebody in your life? Just let bygones be bygones. That's it. We're out of here. Stillman and Company. We'll see everybody Monday at 2.